This is the Vision 79 podcast, where my friend Sander and myself, Mason, discuss recent developments in our business and personal growth. The name Vision 79 comes from our respective racing numbers. Sanders is 40, mine is 39, and we have similar ambition to progress in business and personal growth. Many successful people have started small, just like us, but very few of them have documented their early years. They often say they wish they had, and given we believe in learning lessons from others, we intend to be the first to document our journey from start to finish. This is simply a documentary of our lives, and as such, we do not monetize these videos, so enjoy the ad-free content. Today, we'll discuss how successful entrepreneurs can endure for long periods of time without seeing success, whether we're enduring without success currently, when we anticipate we'll start seeing success, and much more. But first, we start each episode with an update on where we're at in our business and personal lives. So, what do you have for business this week?
Business this week was good. Last week, I mentioned that I was testing out a new strategy where I take an ad that I've worked really, really hard on, and then I cut it up in a bunch of different sections and
Mhm.
segments and test it at different lengths, different messaging styles because of that, because I'm cutting it up. Um, and then I also mentioned introducing things like music versus no music, text versus text, and other stuff like that. So I introduced a couple more of those variables this week, and worked through that process. And I this really stemmed from me kind of going through this process and thinking about how I can optimize it, make it better, make my ad creation process faster. That was one place where it came from. And then a second place that really put some fuel into it is Hormozi said, money likes speed. And I said, okay, money likes speed, then watch this. So I want to, how many dynamic creative tests do you think I ran? And dynamic creative test is an ad set that has between 3 to 6 individual ads in it. And that test runs against a winner's ad set to compete for spend. And then you assess the performance of the ads from there. So that's what a dynamic creative test is.
Mhm.
How many of those do you think I ran between last Sunday and today?
Have you run them before?
No, these were all fresh.
Okay, got it. I mean, like, have you done a dynamic test before?
Oh, yeah,
And at what rate would you do them per week?
about two.
Okay, so if you were
Two.
at
2
two,
is a good week.
if you were at two, I think you're in the double digits now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm at 10.
There you go. Yeah,
10. So I ran 10 tests this week for a total of 52 ads tested.
it's a lot.
Yeah, so way higher than I have been in the past.
Right.
And what I've noticed is that I've been testing them. Some I tested in the umbrella campaign that I have running, and then others I test them in a test campaign.
Mhm.
I have a couple points on that in a little bit, but what I noticed is that part of what stemmed this too is that when you only run one test with the same style ad, it's really hard to get good data back on the ad if it doesn't get a lot of spend.
Right.
And so what I've noticed is that if I take an ad and let's say I do one ad that I've made before, but I add 3 different hooks.
Okay.
So that makes 3 different ads that I can make there. Now I take that ad and I go, okay, I want to add one more messaging style from this other ad. I take that messaging style. Now I have 6 ads,
Right.
right?
Three different hooks, three different messaging styles.
2 different messages, 3 different hooks. So six
Mhm.
combinations total, right?
Right.
I take that and go, okay, cool. Now I say, okay, well, I have these um, 6 ads that I want to run. I'm also curious of whether pauses in the video, like the script says a line and then it pauses, and it says a line and then it pauses,
Right.
makes a difference. So now I have 12 ads,
Gotcha.
right? Because I'm doing paused and no pause versions of each, right? And what happens in that is that now I have 12 ads, right, that I can put in 4 separate dynamic creative tests.
Mm-hmm.
And in each set, I have a one of the 3 hooks and one of the 2 messages,
Right.
right? And so 2 of the 4 ad sets will have replicated combinations of the hooks and the messages,
But with
but
different
with
pauses.
pauses
Right.
differentiating,
Right.
right? And so between those 2, I can look for consistency in what hooks the best.
Right.
And actually, across all 4 dynamic creative tests, I can look for consistency across what hooks the best.
Right.
And then messaging, I can look for what consistently holds.
Mhm.
And then between the 2 tests, the 2 pause tests and the 2 non-pause tests, I can look for consistency in what gets spent in terms of pauses versus no pauses,
Right.
right? So now I didn't realize this initially, but not only have I increased my volume, not only have I been able to squeeze out more potential data from the ads that I put a lot of time in, but now I also get replicatability
Hmm.
across my testing so that I can see whether something is at least relatively consistent or just a fluke, which
Right.
flukes happen a lot when your spend is only 1 to 3% of your total campaign budget.
Just don't have enough data points.
Don't have enough data points. And so I didn't realize that, but I'm like, oh shit, now not only am I getting way more volume out there, way more testing out there, way more potential data out there, but I'm also getting the ability to see consistency replicated across my ads.
Right.
And it's really interesting because there were some things that I would look at in one ad set and I would go, okay, that looks like a consistency. And then I would look at the other three and I'm like, I don't know if it's consistency. But then there would be one piece of the things I identified in the first ad set that would be consistent across all four.
So you can identify which variables work.
I can identify which variables work, which ones are flukes based on ad set, which ones are actually working versus not working. And I was like, oh, this is actually super useful. For example, in one of the ad sets I had, there was a consistency associated with having this certain story in the middle. And
Okay.
I said, okay, cool. Like maybe this will be a thing. And then I go down later and that doesn't seem to be the case.
Okay.
And then it doesn't seem to be the case again. It doesn't seem to be the case again. I'm like, okay, maybe that's a fluke. And then I go back to the first ad set and I noticed that on the end, I had like a very familiar like head, shoulders, knees, and toes song at the very end for my closing line.
Right.
And then I looked to the other ad sets that some of those ads also had that line, and those very consistently got more spend. And I say, okay, cool. This first ad set, it kind of misrepresented me because I thought it was the middle song that was doing it because I added a pause there in order for people to listen, or the middle story there for people to listen to it. But it's actually more about this closing line because I see that consistently across all four ad sets.
Gotcha.
And so then I can take that data and go, okay, cool. Now I know to do this at the end, right?
Mhm.
I don't have data on this yet, but I know I can do this for future tests. And then I apply it to the future test. I do the same iteration pattern and then rinse and repeat, right?
Right.
And so
Now that you know that that variable works.
exactly, and I didn't realize that that would be as useful as it is,
Hmm.
and I'm kind of meshing this with so I'm taking Hormozi's idea of just test more volume,
Hmm.
just test more dynamic creatives, um, and I'm also taking his idea of squeeze all the juice out that you can, right? And I'm combining it with something that I've gotten from the Evolve courses, which is like a course that I'm kind of a part of,
Right.
kind of like a higher tier um, helpers course, essentially.
Right.
And they say that, you know, your winning ads to push the envelope forward on your winning ads, it's very hard to get to the next bracket level without generate it's very hard to do that through iterations of that ad, because that ad at an iteration level you can squeeze out more juice from that iteration, but you can't get it to the next level of audience. It's very hard to
Okay.
take it to the next level of audience because it's targeting a certain audience very well, and that's great. And you could squeeze that audience out as much as you can by changing things like sound or filters or pauses or speed or
Mhm.
background, right? You can squeeze out everything you can out of that ad. But to get to the next bracket of spend and to the next level of reaching audiences, you really need an ideation style of approach rather than an iteration style of approach.
So that means like adding something significantly new.
Yeah, yeah. Evolving the ad into something that's kind of on the newer side,
Okay.
right?
So talk me through what that might look like because we've talked about adding pauses and then adding the line at the end.
Those would be all iteration style
So
in
what
order to gain
ideate?
consistency.
Right.
Ideation would be like, let's say I have an ad where the gramophone is just playing on a table,
Okay.
right? And that was my only ad, right? In ideation would be, well, what if I have a kid coming home, running home from school, and they get home and it's a kind of uh, like quick camera take on them going to their throwing their bag down, going to their room and turning on the gramophone, and then it goes into the messaging style, right?
Instead of
So
starting with just it on the
it's
table.
more personalized POV, kind of like to the kid who's actually using the product rather than like just a gramophone playing on a table.
Right.
That would be like an ideation leap,
Okay.
right? A completely different style of ad.
Got it.
And so they're like, in our experience, ideation has really pushed the envelope forward, whereas iteration has squeezed out what currently exists. And
But you can use this first ad that you're iterating constantly to figure out what variables are working. And then your next ideation, you can apply the variables that work to the new ad
Exactly.
idea.
And then I can take that ideation and apply all the iterations and squeeze out everything I can, right? And so
Got it.
that's exactly what I've done in my combinations is I ideate, I test, I squeeze through iteration, and then I ideate, I test, I squeeze through iteration, and rinse and repeat again and again. And so that way I can test a lot more creative. I can get consistency in my data. I can push a lot more content out there. I can actually be able to learn from the things that I'm doing. And I can also ideate forward
Right.
to try and push the envelope.
Right.
And so that has all kind of formed within this last week,
Cool.
right? So yeah, very cool. Um, it's been very nice to work with. It's been a lot more um satisfying to push out tests consistently rather than trying to ideate and then test and then fail and then ideate test fail ideate test fail. Like even if the ad set fails, at least now I have a tool in my toolbox to where I can squeeze out as much as I can. Right.
Right.
Because before I was just like spending 8 hours making an ad just to have it get $1.50 a spend.
Right.
And that's been like 5 months now,
Right.
right? And so it's been, it's not that it's demoralizing to where I don't want to do it anymore, but it's upsetting because it's not before. It wasn't only that I wasn't getting spend, it's that I wasn't even getting data I could use. So
Right.
it was like me in the cloud ether trying to figure out what my customer wants, which is just like not a great place to be. Like you
Yeah.
just want to have some anchor points, you know?
Yeah, it's not knowing why. It's the same quote that we talked about last week where it's like it's better to know why you failed than to be ignorant as to why you succeeded, right? Except you're ignorant to why you failed, which means that you're not
Right.
making any money and you don't know why, which means you can't take any action.
Right. Now it's just
Easy.
literally rolling the dice,
Right,
right? And
exactly.
and so I'm glad I'm starting to turn that around a little bit.
Right.
And something else that I did this week is I mentioned that I was doing a test campaign and an umbrella campaign, my main campaign and then a test campaign. And those are like the high level kind of overarching structures that then run your different ad sets that then run your ads.
Right.
And so um, I was running this test campaign, and the test campaign seemed to be working really well with the umbrella campaign.
Mhm.
And so and in those cases, what I've shown in the past is that those two campaigns will fight for something called attribution.
Okay.
And attribution is essentially the assignment of what ad got what sale.
Okay.
So when an ad gets a sale, that has a specific tag called a UTM. And that tag is then relayed back to the Facebook Business Manager and your ad manager. And then your ad manager goes, okay, I recognize this tag. It came from ad A, right?
Ad A made a sale.
Ad A made a sale. It assigns attribution, right?
Got it.
Now, the trouble is when you run two campaigns, each campaign might hit the same person who made a sale or got like within the vicinity of those audiences,
Right.
right? And so those audiences are fighting against each other, or sorry, the campaigns are fighting against each other to acquire attribution data. Because
Interesting.
if an ad from one campaign gets shown to customer, Jenny,
Right.
and then an ad from the second campaign also gets shown to Jenny, and Jenny happens to make a purchase 6 hours later, now that
It by
UTM data
right.
is going to be fought over, and I don't know exactly who it goes to. I think
That muddies the waters with knowing which variables work.
right, exactly. Um, and so this week, I was running both campaigns, and they were actually both doing well.
Mhm.
And so I was scaling them up, and they continued to do well. And so I talked to my mentor, and I spent all day Thursday writing up a massive presentation.
Mhm.
And I screen recorded it. It was a 40-minute of me straight talking, and I rehearsed it twice. And so it was like 40 minutes of me going through.
Your problem?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
got
I was running 2 campaigns, and I was really curious. I was like, "This is what I know about 2 campaigns. I know that they fight for attribution data. I know that if I put winning ads in any campaign, they should work. I know that spend is not affected by if I have winning ads duplicated in a campaign or between 2 campaigns," right? I listed out all the learnings that I've had.
right.
And so I said, my biggest hurdle was I'm running the separate test campaign. The test ads seem to be helping my winning umbrella campaign, but when I put my test ads in the umbrella campaign, they didn't get spent.
Hmm.
And so I was really curious. I was like, is this umbrella campaign actually able to identify ads that are helpful to my business overall, right? And helpful to my business overall is different than better from a meta perspective,
Right.
right? Because if I have two campaigns running and they're both profitable, I don't give a shit about the attribution data. If it's making me
Yeah.
more money, I'm happy,
Right.
right? I don't care. At least not at this point, right? Like I'm just trying to get some traction on the ground so that I can understand what's semi working, what's not working, how can I, right? So I'm trying to understand that. And so I essentially presented to him, I'm like, this is everything I know. This is what's currently happening. This is what I'm seeing. I know the attribution data is going to be fucked, but I'm making overall more money in the business. So what is your recommendation for how I take this forward?
Right.
And he was essentially like, it is potentially possible for your test campaigns to do well return on ad spend. But ultimately, y- if the ad you have in the test campaign does not spend in your winner's umbrella campaign, then Facebook does not see that ad as an ad that can scale.
Hmm.
And so I was curious about that. So I tried to scale up, and sure as shit, the test campaign started to kind of fail a little bit.
Hmm.
As I started to scale it up to the same spend, they were very close initially, but
Right.
as I started to bring them up to the same level, the test
Facebook
campaign
started to
started to
prioritize
fail
that.
out, and
Right.
the umbrella campaign was taking it as a taking most of the sales and stuff like that. And so I thought maybe a little bit of discrepancy in the attribution data, potentially causing that. And so what I've been doing is trying to scale down the test campaign because it's not been working, so I can scale it down. And the umbrella campaign, I'm trying to see how that reacts. And so that's a process I'm in right now. Right now, it definitely does seem as though when I scale down the test campaign, I do get a little bit of a hit on the umbrella campaign.
Hmm.
But the umbrella campaign is still performing overall better than the test campaign.
Right.
And so, long story short, I'm kind of relearning the same lesson twice, but the Facebook does know best when it comes to what ads work and what doesn't. I was just really surprised that I could get something that was returning so well
Hmm.
that Facebook didn't spend on at all when I moved it over. And I think an additional factor in this is that the campaigns optimize around your winning ads.
Hmm.
And that's very important, and it's different than Facebook optimizing around um what's best for your business, right?
Right.
Because the winning ad may be targeting a certain avatar, a certain type of person, right? And so if you have an ad that targets a different avatar and a different type of person, it can be hard. I think it can be hard for Facebook to distinguish what would do better and how,
Right.
right? And so that's important to know, I think, for the future, because if I have a ad that's directed at like moms in their 30s
Hmm.
versus my current winning ad is directing at grandmas in their 60s, right? It's important for me to know that discrepancy, and it could be worth testing in a separate campaign to see how it does.
Because then it won't be affected by the umbrella campaign.
Right. It won't be affected by how the umbrella campaign is optimized for the older audience
Right.
in my example, right?
Right.
And so this gets to something else I did this week, which was look in depth at the persona, or starting to look a little bit more in depth at the persona that my winning ad is targeting.
The avatar, like
Yeah,
your
the
target
avatar.
audience.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And so what I realized was I knew it was mostly female,
Hmm.
and I knew it was mostly older. I thought it was much more 40s and 50s.
Hmm.
A v- about I think it was about 85% of my target audience for my current winning ad is over the age of 65.
Really?
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
you
Well,
named Have you named your target avatar yet?
no.
Like Denise. She's
N-
it's a 65-year-old women with grandchildren or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You've heard the Hormozi, like your target audience has to have the three defining variables. It's like age,
It's like
gender,
a grandmother
something like
with
that.
two grandkids who lives in a rural area.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's fun to think of your ideal like
Mhm.
avatar and then be like, dude, her name is Denise. That's my perfect avatar. So I
Mhm.
just got to make this campaign for Denise like every week.
Yeah, and so that's something that I've been looking into a little bit more in depth to try and really hone in on.
Right.
Um and so I took that information and I started developing, sorry, I'm long-winded today.
It's been like 15 minutes. You're cool.
yeah,
Don't worry about
yeah, fair enough. I am so I've taken that information and I've started developing a new ad through an ideation strategy,
it.
so new concept, based on that avatar, and also based on uh, a lecture I listened to from this guy named Eugene Schwartz.
Mhm.
And he's a very big advertiser, or was back
Mhm.
in the day. He advertised in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Right.
And he invented the infomercial. He was really big in the mail order industry. Like you would get a flyer for a book,
Right.
let's say, and then people would read that flyer and then order the book, right? And so he was like number one in that industry, really big advertiser.
Right.
He has a book. It's called. I started looking at it, I forgot the title. Um, it's like World's Greatest Advertising, or something like that.
Okay.
And then it's got like a long subtitle and then Eugene Schwartz.
Got it.
If you look it up, it'll pop right up. But um, I started looking at that book a little bit, but before I dive in depth to that book, because it's very long and it was also very expensive.
Mhm.
And my mentor sent me a free copy of it, which is awesome because the book retails for over $500.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so like
wild.
really expensive. Um,
Sheesh.
and this book is not a new book. This was written in the 90s based on advertisements that were made in the like 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Is it expensive now because it's not being printed anymore?
I think that's part of it, and the
Huh.
other part of it is I think this is kind of like an I think this book is kind of like an underlying secret that a lot of the big shots use,
Alex
because
Hormozi gave out his leads book for free to people who
that is
attended the
true.
show.
That's
Apparently, I listened to
well, because he's got a different value proposition,
Sure,
right?
sure, right, right, right. But I was listening to a podcast. He was on the Iced Coffee Hour, and apparently, I haven't seen the live launch of the Leads book, but he used the Leads book to promote his live event launching the Leads book, and so he was like, "You being in the seat right now is proof that everything in this book works, right?"
Yeah,
And he kept assigning a numerical value to how valuable the book was throughout the entire experience, and so it got to the point where he was like, "This book could be worth like $50,000." And like everyone was waiting for him to make the sale and ask for money. And then he was like, and everybody in the room gets one for free or something like that.
yeah.
And apparently it was like setting really like low expectations of like this book is going to cost a lot of money and then subverting it completely by giving it out for free.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not claiming that this book is like the world's best, or I think Hormozi has a very different style of value
No, I'm
proposition.
just G'ing up
He's
Hormozi.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's a 0 to 5 million
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that he can acquire you and then expand you beyond that,
Mhm.
right? And I think the Eugene Schwartz book is is definitely something that I'm seeing a lot in, especially the upper echelon of the advertising community. I'm sure that a lot of the guys who are bigger know about it.
Mhm.
But I hadn't heard it talked about until it was in this course.
Mhm.
But it's from what I've gathered, because my mentor also paid for one-on-one sessions with these guys that own this big. Essentially, it's an advertising and scaling company,
Got it.
and so he paid for one-on-one mentorship with these guys. Um, and they were talking about this book as well. And so I started looking now. I was like, I wonder if there are any lectures with Eugene Schwartz on YouTube.
Mhm.
And sure as shit, I found one lecture.
Mhm.
There's a lot of videos of people going through his book and like giving you summaries and stuff. I didn't watch any of them because I'm just gonna read the book.
Right.
Um,
You want it from the horse's mouth.
yeah. But I did listen to his lecture, and it was really valuable from the perspective of like know your avatar. You're talking to one person with a mass audience.
Yes.
You change when you use the word change it to you,
Mhm.
right? Target the person. And so I applied all that, and I've spent the only thing I've done for business over the last 2.5 days, or about 2 days, because I didn't really work on it much today. But over the last 2 days, all I've done is work on the hook, the messaging, and the call to action. And I'm at a point where I finally have a draft. After 2 days, I have a draft.
Mhm.
Um, to get to that draft, and this is it's one, two, three, four, five, six. It's between 5 and 6 sentences.
Mhm.
To get to this point took me 15 pages of hooks, then condensed down, figure out how to replace words. How do I twist this, make it better? Condense down again, condense down again, condense down again,
Mhm.
and really trying to hone in on my target. And so I did that for hooks, for messaging, and for call to actions.
Mhm.
And so 15 pages later, I have a draft. And so that draft I'm going to take and then refine some more, refine the fluidity of it together so that it's coherent together, and then put that into create ads from it and then run it.
Mhm.
And so then I'm going to take that ideation, I'm going to squeeze the shit out of it because I don't, like spending 3 days just doing something to then run it once and be like, maybe it didn't work.
You
Right.
want to know what
I
works.
hope it does work, of course, but I want to squeeze as much out of that as I can. But that's the point I'm at where I've kind of created an ideation of my script. I've targeted my persona a little bit better. I'm working towards the ad. I have some footage that I have in the back of my mind that I want to use. And that's what I'm working on now in order to test this coming week to
Mhm.
try and push the envelope forward. I'm hoping that it gets some spend. I'm hoping that it does well. We'll see,
Yeah.
but at least I'm making progress and gathering data and on the right track to some extent. I do
Awesome.
have a couple small things as well. I want to throw these out there as warnings in case anyone watching today or in the future, maybe, I don't know,
Features.
future folks see this or if you want to run ads as well, I threw this in there. Um,
I don't want to, but I'll have to.
yeah, that's the point we're all at.
Yeah.
Um, so what I've found, my learnings so far from this week were the grade level scripts that I talked about, kind of grade levelifying my
Yeah.
scripts. That seems to work a little bit better for holding people.
Mhm.
Personalized ads without extra jargon seem to work better. And this is funny. I was listening to Hormozi on the way here, and this was a reminder of something that I saw this week. But he was like, "You don't want more seconds of value. You want more value per second." Right? You don't want
Yeah.
more seconds of value, just generally seconds in there. You want
Right.
value per second.
Mhm.
And that's something that I saw with the shorter ads I tested. I don't think the shorter ads tested better because Facebook preferred them
Mhm.
necessarily. Maybe that's possible. But I think the main point of the shorter ads is that it was whittled down to something that was a little bit more brief and concrete to the point.
Mhm.
And Facebook liked that. And so it pushed, and so that did overall better,
Right.
right? Um, and so that's something that I've pulled, and that what I love about this new testing strategy I have is that the I could have tested just 3 ads that were shorter and seen that they done better.
Yeah.
And I could have claimed, oh, well, shorter ads do better. I'll just make shorter ads. But because I had 4 or 8 different tests this week
Mhm.
that all centered around like short versus long messaging versus shorter hook versus shorter messaging versus, et cetera. Because I had all that, I had so much data compiled. And I noticed that not always the shorter ad got the most spend or did the best performance wise.
Mhm.
And so then I started looking at why and looking into the scripts more. And so because I had this strategy, it it narrows your focus down to what the actual core is instead of taking an assumption from just a few ads and then trying to apply it, right? Because you might miss the mark on that. But when you have so many different tests, all testing kind of similar iterations of the same thing, yes, some people will argue, well, you're not going to push the envelope forward. And I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe not monetarily, I'll push the envelope forward, but I will push my learnings and understanding and growth forward by having so many different iterations of the same style so I can get to the root cause of why.
Mhm.
Because what I've found through this whole process is my assumption of why is often wrong. And what I need to do is just look at the data driven analysis of what is why. But if I don't have data, I can't drive that analysis and I can't learn.
Right.
And so, that's what this whole entire cycle has been about for me.
Well, and it's also about like getting rid of broad sweeping statements, right? Because
Yeah.
like to say, oh, short ads do better than long ads isn't accurate because the messaging within those could be different. A short ad with shit messaging won't do as well as a long ad with way better messaging and a better hook,
Right.
right? And so it's easier to isolate what is the weakest link.
But what I noticed too is it's good that you say that too, because what I noticed in whittling down these 15 pages into one script is that I didn't have 2 paragraphs of shit to say.
Hmm.
I had 5 to 6 sentences of very directed, meaningful content to tell the audience,
Hmm.
right? And so then I was like, wow, like this is a script. Like
Right.
now I'm writing, now I'm conveying something, right?
Right.
Or at least that's what I'm hoping. But also involving the audience and pulling them into the ad through language seems to work the best. If you involve them directly, adjust them directly, and make casual and personalized phrases, that seems to work the best
Mhm.
to pull them into the ad.
Yeah.
Um, so yep, there's a sweet spot in terms of making the audience feel connected and involved in the shortest amount of time, but you don't want to insert words in order to give breathing room. You want your audience to go through the ad being able to breathe through it, but not inserting just other words so that they pause, right? You don't want to artificially insert pauses in the ad, right? Is my paused versions actually did worse
Mhm.
because you don't want to just pause for the audience. You want your words you want the audience to be able to see through your words and see the product as the natural solution to the problem that you're presenting.
Right.
You don't want to sell them a product. You want to have them absorbed into an experience that then they have the opportunity to acquire into their life, right? By having the words of your script such that they can see through the words and pause through your ads, yet while absorbing information to see your product as a natural solution to what they've been longing for. That's the real trick to it. It's not that you're selling them something through the words that you're saying, you're allowing them to see through the words and see the product behind the screen as a natural solution. It's almost like you don't even sell the product, you convey an experience that then they see the product as the natural solution for, and that's different, right? And so that's what I was seeing this week, and that's also what I saw Eugene Schwartz talk about a lot as well.
Mhm.
And so that was a nice correlation that I saw there through my testing, my revised testing strategy and revised analysis strategy, and also what these very successful advertisers are saying. So I'm
Yeah.
happy to see that.
It's like you're not trying to convince them they have a problem and then explaining why your product is the solution to the problem that they didn't know they had, right?
Right.
You're just talking about your solution and they should already have that problem. And so by learning about your product, they can naturally see the solution. You
Yeah.
don't have to over like exposition dump it.
Yeah, you don't have to dump the problem and dump the solution on them. You want your words to hit the heart so that they because you want to talk to an individual person that has this individual problem, and you want their experience to be captured in the words that they use so that you explain their problem better than they do, but you don't actually use a bunch of words to explain their problem. It's the way that you you convey and order the words creates a natural framework that then hits their heart so that they they manifest the problem outside themselves, and then when you present the solution, that problem that they've manifested outside of them now is naturally resolved through the word choice. But you're not giving them a problem and you're not giving them a solution. You're utilizing the words to pull the problem out of them because you're talking to one person with this one problem, and then using the words, it's and then they've manifested this problem that they already have a picture of in their head, right? Because if through your word choice and through your language choice, you've pulled that out of them personally, just to them, and they're individual with this problem, and then through your word choice you convey a picture of the solution that then they assign to their problem. They do that process. You don't assign the solution to their problem. You allow them to assign your solution as the solution to the problem. They're assigning it. You as the advertiser aren't assigning it to them. They assign it to themselves because you've conveyed the problem and displayed the solution in such a powerful way that even they weren't able to convey so well. Right? That's the real beauty of the advertiser.
Gotcha.
You allow
I
them to convince themselves.
Yeah, I struggle with the emotional side of it because I can't put emotion into words like that. Like I can't make a sentence that does those things from like a meta level. I need it to be like right from the perspective that you share the problem that they have and that you understand what they have, right? Like I have the same problem that you do and I have a solution, right? And then
Yeah.
walk them through why the solution works for you and then they can make the assumption that it works for them.
Yeah, and
Don't over explain it. Don't use more words than is necessary because they already understand. You don't have to say everything, you can show them.
right, and, keep in mind, I'm going off of my learnings as I go, and I'm not a successful advertiser yet, so I
Yeah.
could be wrong, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't understand the vibes-based things as well.
yeah, I'll pull up, we'll have a little break shortly. I'll pull up, 2 different scripts. We could do it, right now, actually. I'll
Mhm,
pull up 2 different scripts, and I'll kinda read you a differentiation
mhm.
of what I mean, or we'll go from there. I'll kinda show you what I mean a little bit.
Mhm.
So I pulled up some of the scripts that I've used, or a script I've used in the past, as well as what I kind of formulated through this idea to try and kind of illustrate the difference a little bit. Hopefully, if it doesn't illustrate it, that'd be awesome feedback because then I got to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
But hopefully, at least this kind of touches on the idea that you pull it out of them rather than pushing it onto them, right? So this is a script that uh, I've run and it has converted a little bit. It's an ad that I've run that has done okay. Okay, it's not great, but it showed some potential, and it did all right. So I'm gonna read the script. It reads, "Looking for something for your grand, looking for something for your kids or grandkids that they're gonna love. You need to check out this gramophone. It comes with 96 records of songs, fables, and stories. Plus, there are DIY cards so you can leave them cute messages. I know you'll love it, so I'm going to link it in the shopping bag below." Right? That's one short script that I've run.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to read. I'm gonna read some hooks first, and then I'm gonna read the messaging, and then I'll and the call to action, and I'll put it together. But I have 3 hooks that I want to run.
Mm-hmm.
These are draft version, but from forgotten to unforgettable, here's your secret key to timeless memories. That's 1.
Okay.
2, from tears to tradition, all it took was this little treasure.
Okay.
Number 3, it's not the screen, it's the silence in between. Here's your little gift to unlock magic in minutes.
Okay.
Right? And then some of the messaging that I have is, with 96 timeless records of songs and stories, this little gramophone turns simple moments into treasured memories. And best of all, your 8 custom records will tuck them in with love, even on the nights you're apart. You're already magical. Let's make that unforgettable. Click the link below and turn a new record today. Right? So
Yeah.
that, like, that's a script. You know what I mean? Like that hits the heart versus what we started with was looking for something your kids or grandkids are going to love. You need to check out this gramophone. It comes with 96 records of songs, stories, and fables. Plus, there are DIY cards so you can leave them cute messages.
Mhm.
I know you'll love it, so I'm going to link it in the shopping bag below.
Yeah.
Like that script, it's telling you what it does, right? But it's not conveying the power underneath. It's not conveying the emotional and the real, what really changes people's minds, right? It's telling you about a product, but it's not showing you how it can change your life,
Yeah,
right?
the first one said to me, if I had to dilute it down to a framework, the first one was, "Are you a customer? I'm a salesman, and here's a product." And the
Exactly.
second one was, "Here's our product, and here's what it can do for you. It's up to you to decide whether it fits your description or not." Like, it's up to you to decide whether or not you want the product, but here's what we have to offer, rather than selling to them and saying, this, like, I saw a Grant Cardone bit this morning on TikTok, and it was his whole, like, "Sell me this glass of water" thing, and everyone is like, "Oh, it's wonderful water. Take a sip. Here, you can feel like it's blessed by monks. The molecules change into snowflakes," and shit like that. And, now I know the whole, like, "Sell me a pen" thing is like, "Okay, I have the pen now. Sell it. Sign this piece of paper." You can't? I'd like to sell you this pen, right?
Yeah.
Like, they need the
You
product,
create the
right?
gap, right? And so I'll
Right,
read
but you
the
can't force a divide between a grandmother and her kid. So you just have to find the grandmother that already needs to bond with her grandkid,
right,
right?
which is
And then
which is
offer
something that
the
a lot of people are struggling with because screens have been such a
right.
hindrance on that ability to bond,
Yeah.
right? And tablets and stuff like that. And so that's what I'm really hitting at with these hooks.
Yeah.
So I'll read it. I'll read the new script as a whole, at least one of the versions I have of it,
Mhm.
from start to finish. It's not the screen, it's the silence in between. Here's your little gift to unlock magic in minutes. With 96 timeless records of songs and stories, this little gramophone turns simple moments into treasured memories. And best of all, your 8 custom cards will tuck them in with love, even on your nights apart. You're already magical, let's make that unforgettable. Click the link below and turn a new record today.
Mhm.
Right? That's it's touching on something more, right?
Mhm.
And I'm trying to get the hooks to every sentence I want to be a claim that captures the audience that's then backed by evidence and proof through the footage.
Mhm.
I want the script to be a claim, and I want it to be made true by the style of messaging and the footage that I present, and that's really my goal here,
Mhm.
right? And I'm hoping that it's better. I think it's better.
I think it's better for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm probably nowhere near perfect, but an improvement would be great.
I think it's a
So
huge improvement.
yeah,
And I think it feels like a huge improvement because it doesn't feel like you're being sold because it's not a like I think what it is there's selling from a used car dealership and then there's selling from a point of shared pain,
mhm,
right? And so there's selling in that, hey, I already know you and I already know your problem and I already have a solution. And so here's why the solution solves your problem and here's the link to buy it, right? And then there's, hey, I understand your problem and we have a solution if you'd like it.
yeah,
And that's the thing is it feels more like your choice when it's not being pushed onto you. Like nowhere in that second one does it say this is a solution for your problem and you should buy it because it's a solution for your problem.
yeah,
And there it says, you know, this is how our problem, this is how our product solves this problem, right?
yeah,
And then it's implied that you have this problem as a viewer, and so then you should resonate with this product and buy it. And here's where you can buy it if you want to,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's up to you to decide whether or not you want to make the purchase.
Right, right. And so that's what I've been trying to get at more. But
Yeah.
as you can see from going through this going through this process, it takes a ton of
It's
writing,
15
right?
pages.
Like it's just
Mhm.
scroll after scroll, right? And so different highlighting and all that stuff, right? So
It's like writing rap.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
writing music or I mean, honestly, hindsight's always 2020, but it's like writing anything of quality,
Yeah.
right?
Have you seen Will
So
Smith's new raps, dude? They're fucking
no,
horrific. They're so bad. They're terrible,
no,
dude.
I
I'll show you later.
haven't.
He did not write 15 pages, highlight all of them, and then reduce it down.
God
It's bad, dude.
damn.
But yeah, it's a good example.
But some of the other learnings I want to throw in for your ad running process as well, and anyone else,
Mhm.
but repeating yourself doesn't seem to be necessary. Just be clear the first time and continue to progress through the ad. Oh my god, this is why I don't write scripts. So you know, it, I played around with repeating the
Mhm.
same thing twice to kind of like in a slightly different way to really like emphasize the point.
What Donald Trump does.
Yeah. And, I didn't really see much of an impact when it came to that.
Yeah.
So I think if you're clear and, the words you use are understandable the first time, you should be good.
Mhm.
Um, so
Hormozi makes a good point about that too. I remember this from a while ago, because when we started off with the podcast, I was always like, I was under the impression of, well, it's a podcast, so it's like a living documentation. Like I don't have to repeat myself from one week to the next, right? Because like whoever's watching is living my life just like me, and they're not going to forget the shit that I said before, right? And that's not the case at all. It's Hormozi says people don't know what you do unless you tell them, and then even when you tell them, they're gonna fucking forget because they don't care about you and they don't need your product today. But in 6 months, they might see another ad and they need to be reminded of who you are and what you do. And what's the pain in someone seeing two of your advertisements if it means that someone else to see your second one the first time, right? So just repeat yourself. Be repetitive.
mhm,
Repeat what you do. But there's a distinction between repeating as in running multiple like advertisements or say making the same statement in every podcast or telling the same story repeatedly as it is saying it one right after the other, because then your audience kind of feels like, you think they're stupid
mhm,
because it's like, oh, I heard you the first time. So it's either boring because you're repetitive, you don't have anything new to say because you're repeating yourself, or you think I'm stupid and now I'm insulted, right?
right, right. I agree. Additionally, what I learned is that music or songs that people know work really well for a call to action.
Yeah.
Um, Also, based on the age breakdown, I should be targeting more 55 plus in terms of age brackets.
Hmm.
65 plus is my primary target.
Yeah.
Um, I talked about that for the attribution data. I talked about campaigns optimizing around their winning ads and their specific targets. And I talked about the different test iterations that I've been going through. So that is my business update for this week.
It's a good update.
Long-winded, but a lot of learnings. Hopefully some of this stuff will prove valuable for your ad running process in terms of at least strategy and
Yeah,
going through that as you get there. You know
I
what I
think so.
mean?
Yeah. I need more time, but when I do get there,
Yeah. You don't want to throw the lobster into boiling water. It's you just
I
want to
feel like I'm
put it in the
gonna
water and then turn up the heat a little bit, a
I
little bit.
feel like I'm gonna have to,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
It's a process. Hopefully,
This is better than 6 weeks ago when you were like, "Nothing. Mostly I was just at work all week and I wanna die." I, like,
yeah,
barely kept the business.
yeah. Well, I don't really have any life updates aside from going to Joel's little go away yesterday.
Mhm.
So
Hell yeah, dude.
yeah, but that's all I got. What do you have for business this week?
Okay, so we're gonna start off with the negative, right? We're gonna start off with the bad stuff and then get that out of the way, and then we'll move on to the good stuff. So, my out of town clients from West Virginia. Last week we showed them 9 different properties. They wanted to put an offer on one of them. They lowballed them like 15-20% below asking, and I was like, "That's totally cool. We can start with whatever price you want. Just understand that, by my market reports, it looks like it's gonna sell like 5 to 10% below asking. So just be prepared to come up." And then they were like, "Well, that's our best, last, and final." And I'm like, "Okay, we should probably look at the next house because I don't think they're going to come up on this." Sure enough, we submitted the offer. They didn't, right? Every offer that we submitted, they did come down, but they didn't come down past the 5 to 10% that I was predicting. And then our clients weren't willing to come up. That's totally cool. There's a bunch of properties out there. We can go find more, right?
Yeah.
So that happened with the first one and the second one, as I mentioned last week. And then they wanted to put an offer on a third one, right? This house, the sellers found vacant and now they're selling, right? I don't know exactly who the sellers are, but I get the feeling that it's a bank or some type of organization because the way that it's being sold is completely as is. They're not changing anything. And the house has like a sinkhole underneath the driveway. And so I recommended to our clients, I was like, we can totally put an offer in on this house, but just be so aware that the roof needs to be replaced for finance purposes because they want to do a mortgage. And there will be problems with this sinkhole. I recommend a soil compaction test. We can get the general inspector out here day one of the inspection period, but just so you know, this will be a problem. They were like, "That's cool. We're going to submit an offer 5,000 over asking price and then request they replace the roof before we go in on the house."
Mm.
And I'm like, "Okay, sounds good." I don't think they're going to end up replacing the roof, but like you never know. So we'll see, right? So we wrote the offer, and that's what happened in the middle of the last podcast. So we got no response that entire day from the listing agents. I called both of the agents' personal phones and the office and wrote the office an email. Nothing back, right? So Monday rolls around. Our clients would like to be under contract Sunday. So now we're a day behind on being under contract on a house. And we finally get in like an automated email back from the company that's marketing the property. And it's like some fucking dipshit who is writing in he's writing in bullet points and he's only giving us half the information for each bullet point. He's using acronyms that we're not familiar with. He's using shorthand for things that he shouldn't be because he's not being clear on anything, right? Here's the fallout of what actually happens, right? This company is working with a real estate uh, um, agency to make a net sale on the property, which essentially means I don't know if the sellers, like, let's say you're the seller, right? You found this property vacant, you gained ownership of the property, now you want to sell it, right? You want to get $250,000 from this property. So you go to your real estate agent and you say, "Hey, I need 250 for this property. I don't care how you make it happen. You keep every dollar past 250 that you sell it for." And then that guy goes out and markets it, right? And so that guy is marketing that property. And the way that all real estate works is the seller pays their agent, usually 6%, and then that agent splits it with the buying agent. Usually it's 3.5 for the seller, 2.5 for the buyer's agent, right? Generally speaking, that's how it works. This guy was saying, "Hey, it's a net sale. So if we put a new roof on it, that eats into all my commission." Cause like let's say that it was priced at 240, or let's say it was priced at 250. The sellers want 240. So it would take up his entire commission and then some to put a new roof on. So he's like, "Not only am I not willing to put a new roof on, but that wouldn't leave me enough commission." And so then we were like, "Okay, well, are you offering any buyer commission? Because you can't put that in the MLS, but it's a negotiation because if he's not offering any of his 6%, usually it's 6%. Here it's anything over 250, right? If he's not offering that, we have to tell our clients that they have to pay us because it's illegal to do real estate for free." So we asked him and he goes, "Yeah, we're actually doing 2.25%, not the 2.5%, but it's not 2.5% of the entire listing price of the property like normal. It's 2.5% of the net.
Yeah.
So the $10,000 delta, we get 2.5. So we get 250 whole dollars from the commission on that side. And we're like, that's ridiculous. What are you talking about? He's like, I don't know what to tell you. It's a net sale. So it's just the way that we're doing it. And I'm like, what the fuck? So then we hear back from the listing agent. Turns out this guy's working with the company that's selling the property. He's not even the listing agent. The listing agent texts us back. He's like, oh, sorry, I missed your text. I don't actually do any of the paperwork or anything. I'm just marketing the property. Okay, so I'm actually talking to the right guy who's telling me that I'm basically getting fucked here. And then the listing agent doesn't know what's going on either. So we go to our clients and we're like, listen, this is the deal. They're not willing to do a new roof, which I mean, basically kills the deal on the vine. I don't know why they had it listed as accepting finance offers, but if they don't put a new roof on before closing, we can't close because a bank won't write us a mortgage. So that means we have to pay for a new roof before closing, which means that we're paying to improve a property that we don't own yet. And that's a risky situation. So I told our clients that. I was like, this is the scenario that we're looking at. If that's what you want to do, we can do it. But just so you know, they're only offering like 2.25% of the net sale. And if that net sale ends up being $1,000, then I get $2.50, like $20 for that. You're going to have to pay our commission. And they were like, that's ridiculous. We're not doing that. And I breathed a sigh of relief because I'm like, I feel like this house has a lot of problems. And I know that the people selling the house are going to be fucking difficult to work with because we've been waiting for 3 days on them to respond to us. Right. And so ultimately they're like, we're not doing this house. And I was like, okay, sounds good. There's another property that they were interested in. That house also needs a new roof, but we had already spoken to the listing agent about it. And he was like, I think my seller would be amenable to that. Write it in the contract and send it over. Let's get talking. And so I'm like, would you guys like to put an offer down on that property? And they were like, let's hold off for a second. We've had something come up. We might need to reconsider. And I'm like, okay, cool. And they were like, do you guys do rentals? And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, they probably haven't found the property for the price they want. So they're going to move down here and they're going to stay in a rental. Like they're going to rent a house until they can find the perfect property. Totally cool. I get it. I want them to be happy overall. Yes, we help with rentals. Happy to help. And they were like, cool. And so in the meantime, I'm like, man, they don't fly home for it's just one of the couple that is flying home. They don't fly home until tomorrow. Can I find them something today? And so I scour the MLS and I find a listing that had been listed and then was canceled for the 3 days that we were doing showings and then was put back on the market that day. It's the perfect house. It's exactly what they're looking for in their price range. It's on the higher side, but nothing would need to be done to this house. It's got brand new everything. It's got an RV hookup on the side. I call the listing agent. I'm like, are your people flexible on the price? And she was like, listen, they've already come down like 10,000 from their starting point. I can't say with certainty if they'll come down at all, but I would encourage you to write an offer. I'm like, sick. So I call Grace and I'm like, we have to call our clients and let them know about this property and see if they can come out here today. And then we get a text from our clients saying that they had a medical emergency come up.
Oh no.
The husband had surgery like a month or two ago, and the surgery didn't take, so they have to go back in for surgery, and they have to delay their move down to Florida
Oh man.
for like a recovery period of 6 weeks. So I'm expecting they're not going to move down for the next couple months. But we were like, I'm so sorry to hear that. They were sorry to us too because they know that we had to put in a lot of work to do all these showings, and we were like, listen, take all the time you need. If you need help with rentals, if you want us to keep looking for properties, like let us know. And like, take all the time you need to recover from surgery.
Yeah.
So those clients are put on hold for the moment, which is a huge bummer, not just because I was hoping to make a sale, but because it's nothing that they want to be going through. Right.
Yeah.
And so I feel for them. It sucks for everybody, right? Everybody's getting kicked in the nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So bummer, but that's the way business is done. Right. And Grace was really bummed about it. And I was like, hey, listen, we have other clients. We have other work that needs doing. This is going to happen. Every client we have right now, we could do 3 months of work on and then have them bail out. Like that's just the way that this business is.
Yeah.
You just have to keep going. It's a reps thing, right? And when these clients are eventually ready to move down to Florida, we will be there to help them. But until then, there's other people that we need to help. And she was like, okay, got it. And I had a moment because our mutual friend Tristan, he had held a listing appointment with that house in Titusville a few months ago. And then when they ultimately ended up to go with a different real estate agent, he was like totally gutted, like super demoralized, and was like, man, this seems to happen every time. I'm just so upset. And I was like, dude, it's a numbers game. Like, let's just like pick it up and go to the next one. He was like, yeah, you're right. And so I was like, okay, so this is twice now that I've had a deal not end up working out or get delayed. Right. And both times I've been able to like not even flinch and keep moving, which I think is a good skill that I'm building. Right.
Mhm.
Coincidentally, the same day that they had to cancel their contract, right? Or they weren't under contract, but like they were like, we're not buying a property, right? That same day, our investment client that we have been showing houses to on and off every once in a while messaged us with a house that they'd like to see.
Cool.
One door closes, another door opens. Okay, fantastic, right? So we go see this house. It's in a really good location for an investment property, and it's priced crazy. It's most houses in that area are priced at like $250,000. This one was originally listed a little bit below it. It dropped down to 215 out of nowhere, and they were like, "We're going to be picking an offer by the end of the month."
Oh, well.
I'm like, okay, dude, sounds good. Like they must be motivated sellers. It's a crazy good price for the work that's been done to this house. It's like kind of turnkey, like it's ready to put tenants in immediately, right? And so we looked at the house. It went well. This is our investors' first time buying an investment property, and so they're not as comfortable with the process, like they're not as used to it. And their last real estate agent sucked. So while we were in the house, we were like, if you want to put an offer on the property, here's what that process looks like. And our client was like, holy cow, like, I didn't know that you could put an offer down with no repercussions. Like, you can submit an offer. They could like for something you like, aren't totally comfortable with. They can accept your offer, and then in the inspection period, you can cancel for any reason. You don't lose your escrow. You don't get in trouble. Like nothing happens. No negatives happen. And our client was like, "Yeah, my last real estate agent made it sound like I was locked in, like it was the end of the world." And I was like, "Your last client probably was just trying to get paid, and that's not what we're here to do." And so we had a really awesome conversation about what the offer process looks like, and ultimately they were like, "Okay, let's write an offer." So we wrote the offer up, and we sent it to them to sign, and then they were like, "Hey, I think I'm getting cold feet." And this was the first time I had gotten this objection before. But coincidentally, the same day I had seen a Hormozi TikTok where he was talking about overcoming the "I need more time" objection. And Hormozi said, "You don't need more time, you need more information, and I'm here to be that source of information for you." So that's exactly what we did. And we scheduled a sit down to go through the contract line by line and explain everything. And that's exactly what we did. We sat there
Oh,
for
cool.
like an hour and a half, talked them through everything, and ultimately they were like, "Okay, I'm comfortable with this. Let's go for it." Right. And so we submitted it. Coincidentally, I was talking to another agent later that night, and they were like, "I'm in the middle of writing a contract right now for this property. It's priced really well." And I was like, "Is it on the road my property's on?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Is it this address?" And he was like, "Yeah." He's writing in the exact same property. He's writing an offer for his clients. And I'm like, "Oh my God, that's crazy." But like everybody's on this property because it's priced so competitively, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, okay. So now I know that there's competition, right? And I know generally the types of clients he works on, so he's not giving me any specifics on what his contract is, but I know it's probably at or above asking price, and it's probably finance. Ours was below asking price, but cash. Generally speaking, sellers are more interested in cash offers because you don't have a bank tying you up and slowing you down, right? So now I know, okay, the sellers are probably going to come to us and counter with something, and we need to be prepared to counter too. So I get ahead of the train and I talk to my client. And I'm like, hey, listen, we got to be ready to, kind of one up where we're at. And here's what we should expect to do. And so the day goes by, we don't hear back from the listing agent, and we text and call her, and we're like, "Hey, what's the deal?" No response. Eventually, we get a text back confirming that they got our offer and they're going to present it to their clients. Right. 40 minutes later, she texts us and they're like, "Hey, sorry, we're not interested. Um, Better luck next time." And we're like, "Well, wait, okay, like work with us. What type of number would be competitive for you compared to the other offers that you have? Because I know they have other offers, right?" And she was like, "Oh, they're just not interested. I think they're going to go with another one." And I'm like, "What?" Like, I'm basically telling you that I'm willing to come up in price on an all cash offer. You have no idea what my top limit is. I might be willing to go up to $250,000. So you're leaving, 40, 50 grand on the table by not asking me what I'm willing to go up to. Right. And so we asked that. We were like, well, wait, we're considering doing a backup offer. And she was like, oh, I think they're going to accept this other offer. And I'm like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? And so we're like, okay, if you're going to accept this other offer, are you accepting backup offers? And she's like, we'll let you know how it goes. And I'm like, this is not how you should be acting as a listing agent. You are not trying to get your seller the most amount of money possible. This is super lazy. So I talked to Tyler about it because I was like, here's my whole situation. Here's what's going on. This lady is not acting in the way that I would expect a listing agent to act. And it's kind of inhibiting my client because maybe my client is comfortable submitting a more competitive offer than the counter. Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, dude, I think she's just lazy. And I was like, what the fuck? What are you talking about, lazy? Like it's one text message which says, can you do 10% higher than your current bid? Right. And he was like, yeah, a lot of lazy agents will just take the first offer that their sellers are willing to take and then they'll run with it.
Yeah.
And so this is my first experience with a lazy or maybe incompetent agent. I don't know which it is, but it has been infuriating. So we're not, and what's worse is that the way backup offers work is you have a property that you're trying to sell, right? I write you an offer for $500,000, right? And you're like, okay, that looks good. I accept. And then Johnny writes you an offer for $490,000. And you go, well, that's pretty close. And so you sign my contract and then I go do my inspection period, right? But you don't have total confidence in me. Maybe I'll bail out, right? So you also sign Johnny's contract as a backup, meaning if ours doesn't work out and expires, you automatically default into that one, right? You don't go market it again. You don't go courting other buyers. You immediately roll into that $490,000 contract, right? This is how Grace got the $700,000 property in March, is they were a backup offer and the first offer
Mm.
didn't work out. And this lady isn't even signing our offer as a backup offer.
Yeah, she's probably cruising through offers, taking the first thing, convincing the client that it's good and that they should sell it out, and then just going and going and going.
Yeah.
You know,
It's also crazy that it's listed at like 215,000.
well, she probably convinced them it's not worth more because she wants to get out of the deal.
It's fucking crazy,
Yeah.
dude. It's
Well, that's my
insane.
assumption, but
Yeah, I don't know. It's fucking insane.
yeah.
So ultimately where we're at is we leveled with our client. We're like, listen, like we are at the whim of this listing agent right now, right? If their thing falls apart, you know, maybe we can submit another offer and go from there. But if not, we're just gonna have to keep looking for properties. And our client was like, honestly, that's okay. If it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. I now feel more comfortable with the offer writing, contract writing process, and I'm more comfortable putting offers out on houses. And you guys have given me a lot of confidence moving forward. So I don't mind. We're not in a rush. We're going to go find the right property. And I was like, okay, cool. So ultimately, I think it was a win, right? And I think it was a really good opportunity to treat I'm not sure about this with let me teach you more about the situation so you can make an informed opinion. And usually the more people understand about a situation, the more comfortable they are with it. And then they're not backing out because it's a bad idea. They're not backing out because they don't understand it. They would be backing out because now they know it's a bad idea, right? And I would never want a client to
Yeah.
go in on a property that's a bad idea. So those are my first two. Those are my clients that I worked with this week, right? So kind of like on standby for both of them. So next is the social media report. I finished my North Brevard market report video, which talks through what is the real estate market doing right now in Mims, Titusville, and Port St. John, the northernmost three cities in Brevard County. And it talks about the listing price, the average sale price, the sold to original list ratio, et cetera, right? And so it's directed toward people who live in North Brevard County and want to know where their house sits at relative to the other houses in the area, or people who are interested in moving to Brevard County, right?
Hmm.
I wanted to do a video on the whole county, but there's like 25 cities in the county and it would be a 25-minute long video. So ultimately I decided I'm going to split it up into North Central, South Central, and South Brevard, and then the beaches. So this is a 5-video series that I can make. And I can make this series once a month every time we get new market information, right? And so I edited the video. Ultimately, it took me a while, but if I reused this format, I think I could probably crank out these videos in like an hour and a half each, which isn't bad. So I haven't recorded anything else yet, but it came out pretty solid. I think I'm comfortable with it. I used the frame that you gave me, the 4:5 ratio frame to overlay
Oh,
the
yeah.
text and stuff, and it worked really well on the top to bottom gap. But my text still was too close to the edges of the screen, even though I was using the right ratio. So now I know next time that I have to come in on either edge a little bit. I actually don't recall if this was just a problem on Instagram Reels or if it was also a problem on TikTok, but
Yeah,
that's
they got some really weird formatting shit.
yeah.
It's I wonder if I think what it does is if you took the if you took that template I have, because it's a square in total, right, with a 4x5 frame in it,
Mhm.
right? I think if you just put that square at the edges of your 9x16, right? So the black lines are well inside the frame, right? And it's just a 4x5 frame. I think the vertical lines there will be potentially your vertical cut. And then when you expand it out so that your black frame lines are on the edge of your 9x16,
Hmm.
those bottom lines will be your horizontal cuts.
Yeah, I just need to know how small, like how much gap to leave between the edge of the frame and the vertical
Yeah, I think you
lines.
can get that by taking that square template with the 4x5 frame in it
Hmm.
and making the square, the overall white square, the same width as the cap cut 9x16. And then the black lines on the 4x5, I think, will be your vertical cuts.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So there's a square behind it. I remember that because I had to delete the white square to make it transparent in
Yeah,
Canva. Okay, got it. I see.
yeah. I think if you did that and
Uh-huh.
then you expanded it out and got your vertical,
Right.
that would give you that smaller shrunk area that will
Yeah.
show regardless.
Yeah. I'm gonna play with it again this week, and I wanted to do um custom thumbnails for each of them on Instagram and TikTok too, so that if you're scrolling through my profile, you see words rather than a picture. Um, and I looked up the frame ratios of the thumbnails for TikTok and Instagram. They're different, and
Yeah.
I made posts to fit each size. And even posting those, it came in way too cropped. So like the edges of my words are cut off on the front and bottom. It's
Yeah.
fucking weird. So I've got to
Hmm.
fuck with it. But
Yeah.
um,
As a side note too, I heard Hormozi talking about this week on one of his other like business call podcasts, but he was saying how um TikTok does have the lowest conversion rate of any platform,
mhm,
broadly speaking.
yeah.
And so Instagram and Facebook generally for marketing and sales is a more profitable platform to work from.
Yeah.
Just
TikTok is good for exposure, I
yeah.
think, which is ultimately what I think I'm looking for from this type of content.
Hmm.
But also, I don't think you can pay to boost TikTok stuff.
You
Can
can run ads on TikTok.
Oh, can you really?
Yeah, yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I hadn't considered running ads on TikTok, but if I'm making videos for Instagram and Facebook,
Yeah, like
it's
if
okay
you have like
on
an
TikTok.
official shop as
Gotcha.
a business, you can, yeah. You have to
Got it.
there's 3 different TikTok business style profiles. It's very confusing.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
I created it and then I was like, this is stupid. One platform, one product, one avatar.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So
Um, so ultimately, I think I'm happy with the video. Um,
cool.
And I had Grace double check it because I was like, this ad is supposed to be only numbers. It is not targeted to people who are not into numbers. Um, and it's funny because Everett texted me later on. He was like, I just saw you doing some like fucking autism math about real estate or something on TikTok, and it was rad. Good job. So I guess it's working.
Yeah.
But I'm happy with it, and I think I'm gonna make another one about North Central Brevard and keep going from there with some minor edits. I'm getting more comfortable with editing. I wrote my script for my Satellite Beach lifestyle video. I got footage from the open house last weekend, and we went and got breakfast there, and then we went back and got lunch there this weekend to round out all the footage I need for that video. And what I learned from my Mel Beach lifestyle video that I'm going to apply to the Satellite Beach lifestyle video is write the script first, start with that, and then uh, figure out what type of footage I need, and then only upload those videos from my phone to Google Drive. So I don't spend fucking 6 hours uploading a ton of content that I'm never going to use, right?
Mhm.
So I'm going to use that when I go to edit the Satellite Beach video tonight. And I'm looking forward to doing that. I think it's going to come out way better. I also changed my style of video. It's not going to be the same as Mel Beach because Mel Beach was like, are you looking to move to the beach? Here's what the real estate market is like in Mel Beach right now, and then here's what it's like to live in Melbourne Beach. And I'm spinning that up a little bit with the new Satellite Beach script. I think I
Cool.
might want to refine it a little bit because it might be a little long, but we'll see. So that's my social media stuff. I did an open house in Merritt Island this weekend, so we're now up to 9 consecutive open house weekends in a row. And I picked this Merritt Island house because it looks really great, but it is on South Trop, or it's on Courtney, right? So like
Okay, yeah.
in between 520 and Pineda.
Mhm.
So there, it's easy to get signs out to Courtney, and it's easy to get signs in either direction on Courtney, so people have enough time to slow down and to turn into the neighborhood, right? But what I think I realized in doing so many open houses in so many areas is if you do an open house on South Pat, there's a lot of reasons for someone to be on South Pat. They could be going home, they could be leaving home, they could be coming off the causeway, they could be going to the beach, they could be going grocery shopping, they could be going to lunch. There's a lot of reasons to be on South Trop. So there's a lot of people that might be in a position to stop by, right?
Yeah.
You are only on Courtney if you're on your way home because you live there, or if you're on your way to something in Merritt Island or down in the beaches to get to the causeway, right? When
Yeah.
you're on your way to something.
It's a transfer road.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? Very rarely are people cruising around on South Courtney for no fucking reason, right? So we didn't have hardly any people stop through, and both of the groups that stopped through had found it on Zillow. They didn't care about the signs. So not a great turnout as far as clients go, but that's okay. I'm still happy because I got the video footage that I wanted.
Nice.
And I posted on my story. The signal was really bad, so I only made one post on my story, but I still had 2 people DM me about the story, which gave me an opportunity to talk to those people. And they were people who I haven't spoken to since high school, so it was a
Oh,
good way to
cool.
reach out. And then, actually, when we did the Merritt Island video, I went to Merritt Island Pancake House on I forget the road in Merritt Island. It's by my high school, right? And I saw a girl who I went to high school who's now working there, and she's slated to become the general manager. So shout out to Jayla, she's doing a great job. Um, and that was nice to see her too. Okay, so that's the Merritt Island house. Christian has his first listing. I mentioned this the other week. And he made a boosted post on Instagram. He paid $155 for 2 weeks of boost, right?
Okay.
And he said that Instagram told him that would put it in front of like 30 to 40,000 people, right?
Mhm.
He said that he got 8 leads from that. They're all cold, meaning they're not ready to buy right now, but still it's something. And I'm like, okay, $155 for a video that you made a week and a half ago for 8 potential clients is a pretty good fucking conversion ratio, right? And that's the same listing video that he made with the top agent at Blue Marlin,
Okay.
who doesn't do open houses or anything like that. I actually also met the top agent at Blue Marlin's partner or assistant, the lady that he does a lot of deals with. And I got to see inside her mind a little bit into how she and Dylan work. Which was interesting. I don't have any like concrete findings from that, but it was interesting. But ultimately, what I recognized from them is they only do open houses themselves for properties over like 800,000 or a million, because then they can dual end the deal and it's worth their time. But anything under that, like a $500,000 house, they're going to try to get other agents to do the open house because they're happy to share that kind of commission. It's not worth spending 4 hours on a Saturday at that open house for them,
Right.
right? Which reaffirms my theory that the top agents at Blue Marlin and any real estate brokerage run ads online and don't go door knocking, right? So that was good info to get from Christian, and I'm gonna use that for my own stuff in a little bit. Speaking of the top agent at Blue Marlin, I saw a video that he did. He did some type of conference or convention or something. I don't know where it was. He got questions from someone at a microphone and he answered into the microphone. So some type of event, right? I have yet to find the full piece of content, although I want to find it. But essentially, the question that he was asked was something along the lines of what makes you a different real estate agent than everyone else? What makes you the best, right? And I'm consistently updating my value equation in my head. And so I'm expecting something that I had already thought about, right? But he brought a perspective that I hadn't considered yet, which is when I work with a client, I make it very clear to them from the get go that you only have to buy me once to get my service for the rest of your life, which is I'm going to help you find a house or sell your house today. But if you have any questions about inspection, about rentals, about property management, about getting your AC fixed, about mowing your lawn, if you need a tree service, if you're moving, anything else, call me. I will answer from here until the end of time. If I buy a house with you today and then 10 years down the line, we've only spoken once, and that once was me helping you buy a house, I'm your guy and I'll help you out. So it's bringing the client lifetime value.
Mm.
And that's something that I hadn't considered before.
Yeah.
Because although it's something that I'm willing to give, it's not something that I had considered advertising,
Right.
right? But I thought that was really interesting. So now I'm excited to revisit my
That
value
is
equation.
cool. That's a very cool idea.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Oh, so my goals for this week is to edit and post a satellite beach video, and maybe start to make another market report video on the North Central Boulevard to see how that does. And I want to get the framing right before I start making any ads because I want the ads to look good. And I want to start learning about ads. I think I'm going to start learning like very lightly this week, but not actually like pay money for anything. Just the fundamentals. What's the difference between a boost and a campaign, right? And then the biggest bullet point that I need to get on top of this week is getting my shit together with my CRM, the customer whatever matrix. I don't know. It's the database where you put all of your clients' information and then you follow up with them, right?
Yeah.
And the reason I need to get my shit together with my CRM is because I currently have enough clients and potential clients that I can keep them all in my head. I don't need to put a Google reminder to remember to call them. I can just remember to text them, right? But I'm just now getting to the limit, I think, where there's enough people in my head that if I don't write something down, I will forget to reach out.
Yeah.
I'm just now hitting that limit. And I'm just now hitting that limit because there was a couple who we were in talks of listing their house like 3 months ago, right? Their dad lives in the property. They're going to move him to a different city to live with them, and then they're ready to sell the house, right? And so we had scheduled a listing appointment like 3 months ago, and they kind of no call no showed on us. They got busy, but also like their dad hadn't moved out of the house yet, right? So they aren't really ready to sell at that moment. Um, and so we had messaged them like once or twice in the week after, but then we kind of went radio silent and like let them figure their shit out. And we are like, we'll follow up later. Like, we're going to let them get through whatever they're getting through and then we'll follow up later. Right. And that has been on the back burner, but something sparked my memory yesterday or earlier this week where I was like, oh, I should reach out to them and see if they're ready to buy now. Right. Uh, uh, an investment property buyer had reached out to me and been like, hey, do you have any like deals that are coming on the market soon that we could get first dibs on?
Yeah.
And I was like, no. And then I was like, well, actually, maybe. It depends on if these people are ready to list or not. I'll reach out to them. So then I reached out to them and they responded and they were like, yeah, we're moving him out in the second week of August. So we could be looking to list at the end of August. And I'm like, oh, cool. That's awesome. If I hadn't reached out to them, maybe I wouldn't have remembered to reach out to them until September. And then it's on them to reach out to me, or maybe they get a different agent.
Yeah.
And so now I'm getting to the point where it's like, okay, I need to actually start using the CRM routinely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason that most agents struggle with the CRM is because when you have 3 clients, you don't have to use a database to keep track of it. You have their number and they're the only people you're talking to. And then you grow to the point that I'm at now where you have enough people that it's kind of getting to the point where you have enough clients to keep you busy and there's people on the back burner that you remember about every once in a while, but you don't need the CRM because you can still manage to keep enough work going that you don't need it, right? But eventually that scales to the point where you're missing out on deals consistently because you're not tracking it in the CRM. And I am hyper vigilant that that's what happens to agents. And I don't want that to happen to me. So I'm now past the point where I have so few people that it's not worth having a CRM. And now I'm at the point where I should start using it. So that concludes my business update.
Very nice.
What's your life update this week?
I saw Joel yesterday, and you and a bunch of other people at POW to say bye to him on his last shift.
Uh-huh.
And the Miata is running good.
That's good.
That's my update.
It's a good life update.
Yeah, simple.
Awesome. I guess.
But what do you got?
Oh man. So I learned this week that the Lexus can remote start from my phone, which has been a total game changer because I can start it from my building at work before I walk out to the parking lot. I can start it from in the gym during my second to last set so it's warmed up. Essentially, I can start like I can get in the car and then start driving immediately. I don't have to wait for it to warm up because I can remote start it from my phone. Fucking game changer. I am absolutely in love with that feature. There was bad traffic on 192 the other day, and so many people were like pulling out last second or braking and turning last second. And I had this realization, which is that your brake lights should not come on before your blinker if you're turning. Your blinker should come on first and then your brake lights, right? And I had this realization behind someone, and I was like, this should be a common saying. Your brake lights should come on. You should not come on before your blinkers. Let's see, what else do I have? Sleep quality. So for the longest time in college, I was able to operate on like, no kidding, 3 to 4 hours of sleep for like months at a time, right? It wasn't great quality of living, but it was doable, right? And then I got the COVID vaccine. And after college, I have felt a significant reduction in my ability to operate on low levels of sleep. And this whole time, I have been attributing it to the COVID vaccine because I don't know what the fuck else it could be. All right. I'm eating the same. I'm sleeping the same. I'm working out less, but not enough to actually impact my sleep. It's the only difference, right? It's that or getting older. And I don't think that getting older happens between 23 and 24. Like that,
Yeah.
I'm too young to be saying I'm getting older, right? And I had this realization earlier this week when I was listening to a Hormozi podcast on like how to buy back your time. And it's something along the lines of like, pay a chef to make your food because most people spend 20 hours a week cooking. pay a cleaner to do your house cleaning because most people spend 15 hours a week doing house cleaning, right? But one of his things was use blackout curtains, wear a sleep mask, and put earbuds in when you go to sleep for higher quality sleep because then you'll need less sleep for the same energy. And I was like, that's lame. I don't need that. It doesn't matter. And then I thought about it and I was like, well, wait, hang on. When I went on my work trip, I felt way better than I did here. And the only discernible difference I could find that would potentially be a positive is that I slept with blackout curtains. And I am accustomed now to waking up when the sun comes up and then rolling over and putting a pillow over my head or like burying my face in the blanket or something to try to avoid the light until I have to wake up at like 8 or 9. Um, Not realizing that that's probably having like a horrific impact on my sleep, right? And then I realized there's a correlation between when I started getting low energy and not being able to operate on low hours of sleep. And that is related not to when I graduated from college, not to when I got the COVID vaccine, but when I started dating Grace because she sleeps with the nightlight on and the blinds open. Not like open so people can see in, but we angle them, but like light from the street lamps and the moon still come in, right? And then the sun when it comes up
Yeah.
blast straight into our room. And that probably has a huge impact on my sleep. So I was like, oh, fuck, dude. Can I get 3 hours of my day back by wearing a sleep mask and
Mm.
actually sleeping without any light? So, like 20 minutes after hearing that podcast, I went and I bought a sleep mask on Amazon. Um, it's one of the ones that like comes down on your nose, like here, so it actually blocks out all light, and it's got like a cup over your eyes so you can open your eyes with the mask on. So you can have your eyes open, staring into absolute blackness and send the signals to your brain, "Hey, my eyes aren't closed, it's dark here," and then go to sleep, right? And like I could put the mask on right here right now and not see any light. It's fantastic. Um and so far I can't tell if it's having an impact on my sleep or not. And it's because it is either sliding off or Sleep Mason is taking it off in the middle of the night. And so I'll wake up to have to go to the bathroom or something, or I'll wake up because like there's weird light because I have been wearing a mask for 3 hours and now the mask is off. So I think I'm getting used to having something on my face while I sleep, but I have been progressively tightening it a little bit more each night so it stays on my face. And I'm getting better at keeping it on my face, but I haven't noticed an improvement in my sleep yet. I'm gonna keep doing it, and then if that works, I'm gonna get earplugs. I'm gonna full fucking send it into optimizing sleep because if I can get
Nice.
like 6 hours of great sleep, then I can go to sleep 2 hours later every night.
Yeah.
So, um,
I haven't slept in my bed in about a month.
you have the opposite problem that I do.
Yeah, yeah. I sleep on the floor. And it's worked really well for getting me up. And I found, at least for me personally, I just acclimate to like the 6 to 7 hour mark really well.
Mhm,
And so I got I got a little less last night. I got about 5.5, but I still feel good today.
mhm,
But I know that if I get like 5 or 5.5 for a few nights in a row, I'll start to feel it.
mhm.
Um, and then I crash and I get like 9.
Right. But you get good quality sleep because once you're out, that's it.
Yeah.
Till you wake up.
Yeah, I go out.
You don't like wake up to go to the bathroom or like wake up to shift around or anything.
No, if I wore a sleep mask and earplugs, I would sleep until next week. Like I still like I'll still sleep through alarms and stuff, even with like lights on, even
Yeah.
after the cat has taken my pillow, even
Yeah.
on the floor with the
I
alarm boiling, I'll sleep through it.
I know that there's times where it's like you wake up and you don't realize that you're awake, like you don't remember waking up in the middle of the night the next day. I remember waking up 2 to 3 times every night, every night. And those are the times I remember. So I'm
Yeah,
probably waking up more times than that I can't remember.
right.
And so with all of that factored in, maybe I don't need 8 hours of sleep every night. Like I've gotten into a good routine of going to bed around midnight and then waking up around 8. So I'm getting like 8 hours of sleep every night, but I still have 2 Celsius a day and
Yeah.
to stay awake. And so clearly like something is wrong and I'm thinking it's my quality of sleep and I'm thinking a big contributor to that is probably the sleep mask because on work travel I had blackout curtains. So I'm hoping that can kick into effect and I can start getting back to 6 hour nights with total
Nice.
no problem. Let's see here. Oh, my first car payment is this month. It's yesterday, but I'm still waiting on the bank accounts to link up. So now my monthly payments are up to $17.50 for rent, $50 for the storage unit, $350 for car insurance, and $580 for my car payment. So now my monthly payments are up to $2,700 a month. Of like mandatory every month get used to it payments. So super stoked for real estate money to start kicking in because that's going to go a long way. And then my last life update is that right after this podcast, we're going to go try to fix the Camaro.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your time on that. And I'm sure we're going to get it all working with no issue
I don't
right
really
away.
want to get the pump to fire up as long as the pump's not out. At least
If the pump's not out.
that's the first thing I'm gonna test. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna send power to the pump, and if it doesn't turn on, I'm just gonna be like, "Well, need a new pump."
Yeah.
So
But that's my last life update. So
yeah,
hopefully next week's life update is short because the Camaro work goes swimmingly and it turns on right away.
fair enough.
Hopefully. So that's it.
Hopefully, cool, cool. Well, we have our
Thanks for
podcast.
watching, everyone. No, I'm kidding. Okay. All right. So let's get into the actual podcast. So the podcast today is on how entrepreneurs can endure without success for extended periods of time. And that's what makes them successful, right?
Yep.
So segment one is taking into account our current situation and determining if we are currently enduring with or without success. And the short answer for me, at least, is yes, absolutely, I'm enduring without success. I started pursuing real estate in November of 2024, got my license in February, and I've only made one sale since then, despite working on only real estate outside of my 9 to 5. I don't have any other side hustles happening. And I can count small successes like setting attainable goals and achieving them, like optimizing the open houses, doing one every week, or posting more on social media. But in terms of larger scale goals, like replacing my engineering income with real estate income, I've yet to see that level of success.
Mhm.
Regardless, I'm still chipping away at the boulder every day, and I have yet to take my foot off the gas. I've done one open house every weekend since starting, so that's 9 weeks in a row. And I've started posting on social media multiple times per week consistently, and my business update has been full of stuff every week. So it's not like I'm not doing anything. But I can only speak for my business. How would you describe your current situation?
So I would say that success is largely in your frame of mind,
Mhm.
right? Um, for me, right now, I'm trying to learn, grow, and get better. So as long as I'm working, I'm successful in those avenues, right?
Yeah.
Because the work will inevitably lead me to a place where I can reframe ideas, relook at analytics, relook at data, and learn and grow from there, right? So from a growth perspective, I would say I'm still being successful because I'm still working and still pursuing.
Mhm.
Monetarily, I'm not really seeing it yet.
Mhm.
But the potential is there, right? The opportunity for me to make this monetarily valuable is definitely there, and I can make it happen if I continue to push volume and quality.
Right.
So those are kind of my frameworks for where I'm at right now, and I think that my whole frame of mind is just keep pushing,
Right.
right, and keep learning and trying new things and doing what works well and continuing to iterate and evolve.
Mhm.
And so, I would say that from an outside perspective, if you were to look at the business, it's got some potential, but it needs help. And so I'm there to try and help it and grow it. But I would say that I'm successful in continuing to try because I think that a vast majority of, or actually all people fail because they give up.
Mhm.
So as long as I don't give up, I would see that as at least a success from a perspective.
Yeah.
You know.
Hormozi says that successful people just find more ways to win. Right.
Mhm.
And so I think that in taking the broad scale of like, oh, well, do you make millions of dollars of passive income without touching a business? No. Okay, well then you're not successful. But if you take the smaller scale successes, um, like consistently working at it every day, right? Like
Yeah.
and improving every week, then you can say that you're successful.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I thought about the Hormozi framework of how he talks about how all these entrepreneurs say like, oh, all the success just happens at once one day, and like finally it just hits. And he's like, it's not that it just finally hits, it's that you build a bridge to success, and you
Mhm.
put in one brick at a time, and sometimes you get a little bit backtracked, but you're continuously putting in these bricks, and it feels like you're doing the same thing, and then it just suddenly hits, but you've been building a system.
Right.
And so I thought back to what my system is, and I was like, okay, like if I think back to where I started, like I started thinking naively that, I could run some ads on an ad account and maybe create 10 or 20 and find one that works mediumly well, and I'd be good,
Right.
you know. And now I'm after this week, I think I'm over 140 ads,
Hmm.
right? I'm still learning. I'm still trying to understand how to build better ads. I'm still growing. I've gone through a dozen ad accounts because of issues, but now I have a framework that allows me to continue keeping stuff running in case something gets down. I have systems in place in order to keep the business afloat. I have, a I've figured out how to move money around most efficiently, right? So there's a bunch of different like internal frameworks that I've created that I didn't have at the start.
Right.
That my monetary success isn't reflected in that yet, but my I'm building that bridge brick by brick.
Right.
And so as long as I continue to build that, I don't see why I can't succeed long term if I continue to produce volume.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that there's an important distinction between like the large scale goals. Like I guess it's like this way. At Thanksgiving with your grandmother, she is the perfect person to define long-term goal. Maybe not your grandmother because she's cool, but like a person's grandmother or family
Mhm.
members, right? Where they're like, "Oh, well, how's the business working for you? Oh, are you still in your 9 to 5? Oh, okay." And then they treat you with pity, right?
Yeah.
That is like a good definition of what the long-term goal is. It's like, what is the external view of success? Because that's like kind of your upper echelon of what you're trying to hit, right? Um,
Mhm.
so like replacing your income of your 9 to 5 with your business income or quitting your job at your desk, quitting your desk job,
Yeah.
or making enough income that you don't have to worry about bills. These are the large hills to climb, right? Takes a long time to accomplish. These are the people who don't see the work that you put in every day. All they know is that you just haven't gotten to the top of the mountain yet, right?
Right.
And then the short-term goals is more so like creating more ways to win. So it's like working consistently, being consistent with the social media posts, like I mentioned, finding a win first day with clients. So like finding them options for properties that they're looking for within the first 24 hours is one of the things that I do. Um, and so it's important to focus on the short-term goals because it's a lot achieving a lot of the short-term goals is what's going to get you to the eventual long-term goal, right? But if you get discouraged after losing a client or you get pissed off after you are not profitable on one type of ad, then you're not meeting your short-term goals and inevitably you'll never reach your long-term goals, right? So I would say that in the context of this podcast, I'm currently enduring without success because I'm not at that level of success that I want to be hitting, right? I'm not making consistent income. I haven't figured out whatever type of advertising strategy is going to work for me. So I would say that I'm enduring without success right now. Um, I think the reason for this is because I have it written out here. The delayed success is because no closings for me means no clients, and no clients either means I have a bad product or no one knows about my product. I'm confident in my product, so therefore it must be the advertising. So then the outcome of that is I just need to do more advertising to see more success, right? And if I do more advertising and I'm doing copious amounts of advertising and I'm still not seeing any clients, then that means there's a problem with my product and I need to reevaluate from there.
Mhm.
That's what I have for segment one.
That's what I had too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Segment two, why stay the course if we aren't seeing success? Again, I can only speak for myself, but the clear answer to me is that other people are doing the same thing and doing it successfully. I'm not breaking the bounds of what's possible, at least in my business. My engineering job, ironically, is less challenging for me just by literally defining the bounds of what's possible. But the fact that there are other real estate agents who are in the same state, the same brokerage, near my same age, seeing successes tells me that it's possible. It's just a matter of whether or not I'm going to make it happen. And this makes a lot of sense to me, but I don't think that this perspective is widely shared. Interestingly, I had a conversation with Grace and someone else at the bar yesterday that was a surprising example of how strongly I subscribe to this belief. It's a longer story about how we got to this topic, but we wound up at the topic of Elvis Presley and why he is successful and the reasons for which he's successful, right? I had heard a story yesterday on how he became famous, and I didn't realize this, but he was a truck driver. He was 18 years old, being a truck driver, and he stopped by a recording studio, which charged $4 for a recording, right? Not a ton of money. Even for then, it wasn't a huge amount of money, right? And that's because I think the guy's name was Sam Phillips or something like that. The owner of the studio wanted to find a star to make it big, and he felt that the best way to do that was to make recording sessions available to everybody at a low price. That would still keep him in business, but he's not in the business of making his studio profitable through large amounts of high-paying customers, but by finding one person to blow up, right? And eventually he had this 18-year-old come through who had a guitar and he just wanted to make some songs for his mom. And so he recorded the demo and the studio owner was like, "Hey, this guy's got real talent." So he noted his name down, right? A little while later, he had a band playing and the band was really solid, but they needed a lead vocalist. And he was like, "Hey, I had this cool kid come through earlier. Let me call him and see if he would be willing to do like the vocals and guitar." And he came back and they did a couple recordings of the songs that they were playing, and it just wasn't working for them. And so he was like, they took a break, and he sat back and he was like, man, like, what can I do to make this happen? Because it's a good band, it's a good singer, they just aren't meshing very well, right? And then on their own, the band and Elvis started singing this song, and it sounded phenomenal. And so he started recording it, and he took that recording. I forget what the name of the song was. It's like "It'll Be All Right" or something like that, right? And so he took that recording and he brought it to a local radio station, and then they played it, and it blew up from there. Like, it just fucking skyrocketed, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like this kid who's a truck driver and a guitar and a band who isn't known for anything came together at an affordable recording studio and by chance had the talent to blow up,
Mhm.
right? Didn't cost a bunch of money, wasn't this crazy opportunity, didn't grow up with a silver spoon in their mouth or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
And the topic came up of, oh, well, Elvis Presley like stole rock and roll from black people. And I was like, well, wait, hang on. Did he? Because no one else was making music like Elvis. I mean, there's never been anybody like Elvis, right? And so then the topic came up of what makes a successful music artist? Is it the song or is it the person and the character? And my argument was the person and the character makes a bigger difference than the actual song and the lyrics do, which is why you see a lot of really talented writers, not pop stars, but writers,
Mhm.
right? And a lot of famous musicians today don't write their own stuff. Like Sabrina Carpenter's new song, Man Child. I was listening to a Chris Williamson podcast. He has a very successful songwriter on the podcast. And he's like, it's funny to watch everybody try and break down Man Child and who Sabrina Carpenter singing about, like what's going on in her life to inspire her to write this. But she didn't write the song. Like, it's a song that she's performing that was written by songwriters, right? And I was making that argument with Grace and these other people that we were talking to, and they were like, "Yeah, but the people who wrote the songs weren't given their royalties. Like Elvis Presley stole the song and he stole their style, and then he went and blew it up because he was white and he had more opportunities than black people." And so
Yeah.
I was making
Keep complaining about your problems and stay poor.
well, so
I get very passionate about like
me too.
yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
But it's important to recognize that at the time in the 1950s, there was segregation and it was really challenging
Yeah.
for black
That
people
is
to
true.
do
That
anything.
is true.
But there are individuals who overcame those odds. And so I was trying to make the case that, there's a difference between um, recognizing the challenges that face a person or community and then giving credit to the people who made it happen anyways, right? And their argument was that I have it written here. Grace wanted me to read a direct quote because she doesn't want me to misquote her in this, right? And so she said, Black people were not given the same opportunities and were actively prevented from reaching the same levels of resources as white people.
Mhm.
And I want to be sure to emphasize that I think that's a totally true statement. I think that's 100%
No, I
accurate,
agree.
right?
Yeah.
But two things can be true at the same time. Black people can be not be given the same opportunities and can be fought and pushed back at every opportunity to oppress them. And at the same time, it can be true that there are multiple people who have taken those opportunities and found success anyways, right?
True.
So the examples that I came up with, because they were hitting me from like all angles of like he sold this music, right? It turns out that I found the song that Elvis Presley got famous from was written by a black blues player in
Yeah.
Louisiana.
It was. Yeah.
But he sold the rights to his song to a record company. And then Elvis Presley did his cover of the song with the recording studio who didn't own the rights. And the recording studio brought Elvis Presley's cover of this song to the record company that now owns the rights to the song because they bought the IP from the guy in Louisiana, the writer, and then they're the ones who blew the song up.
Mhm.
So the writer of the song was paid. He didn't profit off of Elvis Presley's like meteoric rise to fame because he had sold the song to the record company, not to Elvis, right? But he was paid fairly for what he agreed to,
Yeah.
right? This is my current understanding of the situation. So, okay, now my counter argument is valid in that Elvis had a right to use the song. He went to the record company, like it was under fair use, whatever, right? He didn't steal that, right? And then they made an argument that like later songs he had stolen outright and they weren't compensated. And I was like, listen, we're debating here his rise to fame and the resources that he had available to him, right? He had available to him a $4 recording studio, which he used, and then like that's it. Like that's all he needed. And then
And
it
a
was put on a
guitar.
local radio
Yeah.
station that blew up from there, right?
Yeah.
And so that tells me that it's his talent and charisma, which he's known for. That's why people still impersonate him in Las Vegas today. Like you put on the Elvis Presley character, right?
Right.
No one puts on a Justin Timberlake character. You know
Right.
what I mean? He was more than just a musician, and that's what made him special.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so my argument was the songwriter of that time did not perform the song the same way Elvis did, or he would have blown up. And they were like, well, you don't know that because he didn't have the same opportunities, so he never went to a recording studio. And I was like, well, he could have made those opportunities. And they were like, no,
Well, it actually is recorded. You can listen to it.
the original guy.
Yeah.
I haven't heard it. I've tried to
Yeah.
find it
It's
yesterday.
very different. The you can see the resemblance, but it's
Right.
it's the how the song is conveyed is very different.
Exactly. Right. It's the
At least
character
in my opinion. Maybe someone would
performer
disagree,
that
but
makes the difference. Right.
yeah.
And so then I went on and I doubled down and I was like, well, no, that's not true. They could have found a recording studio and made it happen. And that's evidenced by the fact that there are famous black musicians of the same era that went and did it. And they were like, that's not true. They had different opportunities. Like it was a different situation. So I found two examples that defied this exact situation, right?
They're huge
In
black
19
musicians.
In
I think, yeah.
1949, Ray Charles, who sang
Yeah.
I've Got a Woman, he grew up in Florida and he went to a school for the deaf and blind, right? And he learned to play the piano there. And then he played local gigs. And so then the argument was made against me. Well, he had an unfair opportunity that other people didn't because he went to a school where he was taught to play piano. And I was like, regardless, he learned to play piano. He worked local gigs making no money, and he saved up enough money to go from Florida to Seattle, which in 1950 something was a huge deal, or 1949 was a huge deal to get that far on money that you scrimp and save together, right? And then in Seattle, he started playing with bands. They recorded a demo, went up, whatever, right? And then it went on to there, right? But he recognized that there weren't opportunities in Florida for him. It was the segregated South. He wasn't valued there. So he saved up enough money to move to where he would be valued. And then he made it work from there. That was 1949, 5 years before Elvis recorded his first song in 1954. Yeah. And so then,
Yeah.
hang tight. I even countered that because I was like, I'll give you the credit of the doubt. I'll say that the school for the deaf and blind gave him an unfair opportunity that other people didn't have in that he was taught to play piano. Take Chuck Berry, right?
Yeah.
Some of my favorites, Johnny B. Good. Everybody knows Johnny B. Good, right?
Yeah.
And countless others, right? He borrowed his friend's guitar when he was like 15 years old and learned to play the guitar, saved up his own money to buy his own. He grew up in St. Louis in Missouri, right? Where, again, not the same type of rights. It's the segregated South, whatever. So he moved to Chicago, again, by saving up his own money, where he then joined a band, played local gigs, and then blew up from there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there are other people who were presented, maybe they had more challenges than Elvis in that in their area, they didn't have a recording studio that would do it for $4, but they made it work anyway, and they overcame the odds. And so through this conversation, I was recognizing, okay, we're not debating over like whether or not black people were oppressed in the 1950s. They absolutely unequivocally were, and it wasn't fair for them, right? But when I look at that situation, I look at it from a totally different perspective from other people, where other people will victimize them and then take their ability away from them by saying they weren't given an opportunity. And I look at it instead as a success story of these individuals who made incredible music overcame the odds and made it happen. And so this is a shining example to me of how the difficulty of a situation shouldn't define whether or not I think it's possible for me to find success there. To say Chuck Berry and Ray Charles got lucky is disrespectful to the level of effort they showed to persist and prevail in a hostile environment that didn't hand them opportunities. They had to go to a different city and fight the odds to make their own opportunities. And so what's so interesting to me about this particular situation is that two people can view the same situation and pull totally different lessons from it. You can either see it was so difficult to succeed, most didn't, or it was difficult to succeed and only a few did. And it's the classic glass half full, glass half empty perspective.
Yes.
But what's so interesting to me is that it's entirely up to the viewer to determine which half of the glass is more valuable to them. I personally can do more with the glass half full.
Yeah. Very well said, and I completely agree. And the reason I get so passionate about this topic is because you can choose to look at your entire life glass half empty. You can choose to do that, and that's awesome for you. And go for it. Actually, that's really funny. I know that guy. That's Sammy's old bike that just pulled up.
Oh, really?
It's Pez. That guy.
Oh, I know
that
Pez.
found.
That's so
Yeah.
funny, dude. I wonder if he lives here.
I don't know. I'll text him later. But anyways, sorry for the interruption. But
Yeah.
yeah, you can choose to look at your life glass half full, or sorry, glass half empty. You can go through your whole life and think like, oh, this person had this thing, and this person had this thing, and this person had this thing, and look at how lucky they got here, and look at, and it will do nothing for your life. You will gain no value from it. You will sit around and complain, and you won't get anything done.
Mhm.
And because it's easier to complain about your problems than it is to do something about them.
Right.
And it's so it's disappointing to me when I see people with so much potential waste so much energy focusing on why other people made it and they can't.
Mhm.
Or why other people made it and why this person can't do it because they didn't have what this person, like, take all of the energy that you utilize to complain about how life is so unfair and just say, life is unfair. Your life is unfair. Shit sucks. People don't get the same opportunity. Okay, preface that. Go for it. Feel better? No. Okay, so what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Like, what are you going to do? Like,
Right.
you can sit around. I could have sat around and complained through my entire life and been like, why does this person have this thing? Why does this person have this thing? Or like, like, why, why, why did I have to, deal with this car accident? And why did this happen? And why do my computers keep, breaking on me? And like, why do I have this stressful situation going on in life? And, this and that. And like, why are my ad accounts getting blocked? Why can't I find an ad that hits? What if this isn't working? Like, there's a million things that I could focus on that have not gone according to a picture perfect storybook plan,
Yeah.
right? And I could have at any point in those moments, I could have been like, well, I'm just going to choose to give up,
Yeah.
like whatever. And I don't. And that's the continuous pursuit of not giving up is the only differentiator between people who succeed and people who fail.
Right.
It is the only one because for every single example that someone can bring me of someone who, you know, didn't make it and they were so talented, but blah 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 blah. I can find an example of someone who had worse conditions and did better
Yeah.
every single time.
Mhm.
And so it's not down to this, like, by chance this and this happened. No, your inputs equal your outputs.
Right.
And if you input, you will see an output. Maybe someone has to put in 20 times more inputs to get the same output. Maybe, but they still get the output,
Right.
right? And life isn't a cash register. You can't just put in a dollar and get out 10, and not everyone can put in the same dollar and get out the same 10,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you're dealt more dollars, sometimes you're dealt less dollars, and sometimes your cash register is broken and you have to figure out how to fix it, right? And so, but that process is open to everyone.
Right.
It's the land of opportunity. You have opportunity, use it. If you're if you're if you're in a family that's struggling, you come from grassroots, that's your story, that's your opportunity.
Mhm.
Utilize it, right? You don't you have nothing to lose. So you have nothing to lose. Go for it. If you come from a family with millions and millions of dollars, utilize it. You
Yeah.
have that opportunity. As long as your framework is for the perspective of how can I utilize my situation to best take advantage of my opportunities and push them forward to the life that I want to live, then you're good. Like, you will make it. Just continue to pursue this. And I got really passionate about this the other week too, because Sammy and I've been watching these like little Veritasium videos
I love
for
it.
dinner sometime. Yeah, yeah, it's fun. And so we pulled up one of them, and he was talking about the role of luck in success. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. And so he goes through this and he was like giving all these examples, and and he gave this example of um 70% of professional hockey players are born in the first quarter of the year.
This
And
is a correlation does not equal causation.
no, but it was interesting because he pulled it into a causation because he was like, because these kids are born earlier and they're still within a lower grade level,
Mhm.
they tend to be bigger than their classmates in the same grade level. So when they go out on the rink, they are able to progress, they are able to dominate, so they're able to get more practice. And he went through this whole thing of like they get more practice, so then they get spotted more, and then they get more ice rink time and blah blah blah. And then and I went through the whole video and I was like, that's awesome. 70% are, let's say, born in even in January, let's say,
Yeah.
right? Okay. That leaves 30% that didn't have to be born in the first fucking quarter of the year and still made it,
Mhm.
right? And I can be that 30%,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not 100% of all hockey players are born in the month of January under the full moon as the stars were aligned, right? Not every single one was, and not every single one was in history, and 30% worked their ass off. Okay, maybe they weren't dealt the January card,
Right.
okay? But that still doesn't mean that they can't make it.
Yeah.
They work hard enough, they will make it. And that is evidenced by the 30% that do.
Right.
It is evidenced by that. And so it's like, if you just work hard enough, you can make it. and who can make happen what you want. I get so passionate about this because it's so frustrating. I watch people waste away their potential and their lives and the opportunity and the cards that they've been dealt, not even on anything physical in their life, but their mental perspective on their life. I'm like, you are letting your mental perspective on what you think you can and can't do determine what you will and won't do. Like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like, work, try. I'm so passionate about this because it's infinitely frustrating to me.
I got equally passionate about it yesterday, and I was in a particularly difficult situation, and it's why I felt it's so perfectly aligned with our topic that we had already decided on
Yeah.
for this week, because it sounded like I was being racist and defending it,
Right. Yeah.
but I was actually defending people who work hard and overcome unrealistic odds.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to defend. And it was a full 40-minute conversation. And I like continued to dig at it because I continued to try to find a more eloquent way to try to make the point that I was making. Right. And I found a way to do it. And that's why I talked about it in the podcast, is because like, if I could have brought this to the table instead of the whole thing started, um, the conversation kind of flowed into this from a different perspective. It was Stevie Nicks has a song with Fleetwood Mac called Gypsy,
Mhm.
right? And we were talking about where the term gypsy comes from and whether it's a slur or not. Because apparently, when the gypsy people came to whatever country, um, Europe, they spoke a different language, but they had darker skin, and so the Europeans called them gypsies because they thought they came from Egypt.
Okay.
So gypsy Egypt, right? It turns out they didn't come from Egypt. They came from India, and then they came from India, and then they went to Romania, and then they came into Europe. And so eventually, they had been calling them gypsies for so long. I don't know the details, but it was something like a minority were giving the majority a bad rap. And so then gypsy became like not a term of endearment. It became kind of like an insult. And so then the gypsy people were like, we prefer to be called the Roma people because, we come from Romania, not from Egypt. We've never come from Egypt. That was a mistake. But also the term gypsy is like a slanderous term. And so they started going by the term Roma. But apparently, some people now use the word gypsy like they're taking the word back, right? And I'm like, oh, it's interesting because the term gypsy is a descriptive term of like, oh, you come from Egypt, right? It's not a slur like jackass or idiot. It's just a term that is
Yeah.
descriptive. And then I made a comparison to the N word because that is a descriptive word that then became a slur, right? And is now considered to be a slur.
Yeah.
But like the origins of the word is as a descriptor, right? And so we were drawing
Yeah.
comparisons.
In a negative connotation.
Of course.
But yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Uh,
To make clear for future listeners.
No, absolutely. Well, this is the
Yeah.
conversation that eventually led us to Elvis. And then I had an original thought, which is it's so interesting because the Roma people and African Americans come from an outside nation with their own culture, and then they come to a new country and they bring their culture there, right? And that's interesting because people always talk about like how white people in America have no culture, right? And they specialize in just ruining other people's culture.
Uh-huh.
And then I thought about it and I was like, well, this is interesting because people like the gypsies that come from India and then Romania have their own culture. Same with African Americans who come from Africa, right? They have their own culture that they bring into new countries. But white people in America largely came from Britain, right? Like they came from Britain to America to found the new land,
Mhm.
didn't like the taxes, and essentially the white American original culture was, we like what you're doing here, but we don't like how you're doing it. So we're going to make it ours, and then we're going to do it our way with no taxation and the Declaration of Independence and all that, right? And then they welcomed in all these other cultures from different parts of the world that made the American melting pot, right? And so, like, people from other cultures come to America and share their culture with everybody living in America, which is what makes this country great. But white people in America don't really identify with the culture that they came from in Britain because the whole foundation of their culture in America is we're doing what other people did, but we're going to do it our way.
Yeah.
And then I was like, that's interesting because Elvis is kind of like an interpretation of that, where it's like, I like this rock and roll music type stuff that he learned a lot of the fundamentals apparently from a Southern church that was run by a black pastor. And so he learned a lot of his vocal cadence and stuff from that, right? And so he was like, I like what I see and I want to put my own spin on it, right? But the majority of people in America are white Americans with that same like cultural background of like, we're going to do it our own way. And so then it becomes appropriation because now it's the majority copying or putting a spin on something that a minority did without giving them credit, in that the person who wrote the original Elvis song and some of the other Elvis songs like weren't paid their rightful dues, right? But that's how this whole conversation came around. And so then after all that I just talked about, which is about like cultural differences and ethnic backgrounds and stuff like that, then it turned into, well, Elvis was actually awesome. And then that sounds like a racist argument when it's not. It's really a people overcoming odds type of
Yeah,
argument.
yeah, and this is excuse me. This gets misconstrued so often for, um, you know, for like if I were to try to tell this to someone, it gets misconstrued for me not being uh, empathetic to to other people's position, and me not being understanding to where they come from, and me being racist or sexist or all these derogatory terms. And it's so funny to me because it's the exact opposite that I'm trying to do.
Mhm.
I am trying to say that you can succeed despite the difficulties that you face. And there's the people arguing against me are saying they can't succeed because of the difficulties they face. And I'm like, no, like that
There are
that
people who have,
fundamentally is screwed up. Like to
right.
say that you can't succeed because of the color of your skin,
That's right.
or see, that is fundamentally racist. I am saying the exact opposite. I am saying that I understand that you face other challenges that I don't. I may face challenges that you don't. Joe Schmo may face challenges that I don't, and whatever, right?
Yeah.
I, all I'm saying is that we all face different challenges in different ways, all of us. Yet there are infinite examples of people who succeed regardless, with challenges that were worse than ours and situations that were worse than ours, and achieved more than we did.
Yeah.
So go for it. It's so funny to me because it gets misconstrued for me being this like unempathetic, like, guy who just doesn't understand people and doesn't understand these positions. I'm like, no, I want to see people succeed
Right.
because I don't want to give them an excuse not to, because I want to see them prosper. It's
Right.
like the exact opposite. And it's so fascinating to me that it gets misconstrued to the other direction.
Yeah, I think that when people hear our perspective, like hyping people up,
Yeah.
they really don't see it as hyping people up, but discrediting the challenges that they face. But what's
Right.
interesting to me is that
Yes.
it's the perfect example of the Hormozi principle of the hardest thing you've ever had to deal with is the hardest thing you've ever had to deal with, right?
Yes.
So for a kid born in poverty in India, where there's 10,000 other people in his village and doesn't have an opportunity to be seen or go to school or get an education or anything, he has some really hard shit to deal with, right?
Yeah.
The hardest things that he's ever had to deal with. Similarly, a white family in America who grew up like his dad's a billionaire and he went to private school and whatever. The hardest thing that he's ever had to deal with is he was going on a date. He got a haircut before his date, and the barber made his hair look stupid. That's the hardest thing he's ever had to deal with, right?
Hmm.
And it's to say that that's the hardest thing each person has ever had to deal with is an accurate statement. And for both of them, it's the hardest thing they've ever had to go through, right?
Yep.
And you can't take that away or change it for either of them because that's their lived experience. I
Yep.
think the problem comes in is when you try to compare the difficulty that either of them have, because there's so much detail and so many semantics to every person's individualized story. Everyone faces different challenges. But I think that it's fair to say that I want to hype up people to overcome their hardest challenge, regardless whatever their hardest challenge is, right?
Yes.
Like the
Yeah.
the the support and the backup and the belief in those people should be there regardless of who they are or what they're going through.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a 100%, 100%. All I want to do is see people succeed and see people grow and prosper and not be hindered by the mental barriers that they create in their own minds.
Yeah.
That's all I want to see. I'm not trying to say that, I'm not trying to discredit your suffering. I'm trying
Right.
to say that I understand your suffering. Look at the incredible story that you can utilize, and
Right.
look how you can succeed despite that.
Right.
You don't you have a different set of opportunities than the millionaire trust fund kid.
Right.
So use them. They're amazing,
Right.
right? That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to be encouraging. It's
Yeah.
you said it better than I can, and it's so funny how it just gets so misconstrued.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I put a lot of
sad,
thought into it.
really.
Yeah. I put a lot of thought into it because I think it's an important argument. And what I realized in that conversation yesterday was it took me a long time to get into the argument where I was like, is there something that I'm not seeing? And then I realized I was like, I subscribe so strongly to the take what's useful and use it to your advantage and like,
Yeah.
overcome the obstacles persona, the anti-victimhood mentality persona that I wasn't even like considering the outside perspective that the people I was talking to had considered, where it's like they had a lot of challenges to overcome because all I was seeing was someone overcame them. I believe anybody can overcome them if they try.
Mhm.
And what they were saying was like, no, it's impossible. And I was like, I couldn't even understand that perspective because I subscribed so strongly to this fundamental part of me, which is regardless of the level of difficulty, it's like only you can overcome it. Right?
Yeah.
Like no one's gonna hand it to you. And then if they hand it to you, then you're gonna have imposter syndrome because you're gonna feel like you haven't earned it because you haven't. Right?
Yeah. If anyone needs like a really visual representation of someone that can overcome anything if they put their mind to it, there's this guy he was in, I think, Iraq, and he got blown up by either a car bomb or a other style bomb, and he became a quadriplegic.
Mm-hmm.
And he's done several TED Talks at this point, and it's not TED Talks because of his condition or his suffering and his pain. It's TED Talks because he's an athlete now. Like there's videos of him learning to swim. He swims
Mm-hmm.
for miles. He's learning to run. He's learning to do athletics. Like this guy is like, you know, he is literally someone you could look at and go, you will never run or walk because you have no legs and no arms.
Right.
And he is someone who has taken has taken his circumstance, and despite this continues to do what he loves and he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if anyone out there needs a really visual representation
Yep.
of what it means to take the cards that you've been dealt and build the life that you want, like that guy does a really awesome job demonstrating that in a very easy way to see, quite
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah. And it's easy to say you'll never run or walk again.
Yeah.
Or if you, by some miracle, do run or walk again, you'll never be Michael Phelps. So don't even try.
Yeah.
And it's the same way to say, like, oh, Chuck Berry, you're a black man living in the 1950s, right? You'll never make it. And even if you do make it, you'll never be as famous as Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
I listen to Johnny B. Good way more often than any Elvis Presley song. I don't know if I have many Elvis songs in my phone at all, but I've listened to Johnny B. Good like routinely,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Perfect example of how it's like it is, especially when it comes to art. It's so subjective. But at the end of the day, it's just, are you going to overcome the odds to do what you love or not? Which brings me to my actual bullet points for this section. And there's not many. It's just you have two options: try and risk success or failure, or don't try and definitely fail.
Yeah, yeah. I I I think the one bullet point I want to say is, I think for us there is no real choice here. We have a choice. We have a literal choice to stay at our 9 to 5s or to pursue business, right? But to one of those choices is very clear, is very clearly the optimal choice, right? And it's to continue to pursue business and to continue to try, because yes, there is a choice. You always have a choice, but for me to look at staying in my 9 to 5 for the next 40 years is not an option for me.
Right.
I will die trying to do the alternative, or, or I will make it. Like
Right.
those are the options that I've set out for myself, because I refuse to stay in a 9 to 5 structure for the next 40 years of my life. I
Right.
refuse to do it.
Right.
And
And
so
it's that perspective where it doesn't matter what, never tell me the odds. It doesn't matter how many obstacles are in the way because I don't see the alternative. I don't see
yeah,
option two, don't try and definitely fail. I don't see that.
yeah, I 100% agree.
That's everything that I have for segment two.
Me also.
All right. Let's move on to segment three then. This is again a personalized section on when do we anticipate seeing success, why, and what happens if we don't. So this is a difficult section for me because I haven't yet found a correlation between input and output in real estate. When it comes to engineering, I have a pretty solid understanding of how long things take to do. When
Mm.
working on cars, I know things usually take about twice as long as I think they'll take. When rowing, I have enough experience to know how long it will take me to get to a certain race time for a certain amount of training. In each of those situations, I know the input, engineering design, car work required, training plan, and can gauge the output, how long it takes to complete the task. Not only do I have yet to identify the output that results or the input that results into the output with real estate, but I'm also nowhere near efficient with it yet. If open houses are the key, I know roughly how many I can cram into a week if I step on the gas, and I can project how many clients I'll get. So far, that hasn't been fruitful. If cold calling is the right method, I can measure time per phone call, conversion rate, and then define a projection for success. But I haven't done any meaningful volume of cold calling. Having not found the right method yet, any amount of estimation is total guesswork. At the beginning of this year, I estimated I'd have my license in January, be signed to a brokerage in February, close my first sale in March, and quit my job by May. In practice, I got my license in February, signed to a brokerage in May, closed my first sale the same day, so also May, and I'm generating nowhere near enough income to replace my engineering salary. And it's currently August. I clearly just don't know the variables well enough yet to predict, but I do have vastly more experience now than I did in January, so I have some predictions anyways. But before I get into my predictions, what do you anticipate with your levels of success?
Before before I get into that, I want to actually touch on something that was like really bittersweet that I heard in a Hormozi podcast this week. Um, and it's bittersweet. It's bittersweet, and you'll see why. But um, he said you only start for the first time once,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, man, I was like, it was like almost sad for me because I was like, like the moment of starting something for the first time is just so friggin' cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just such a cherished moment, and you don't realize it when you're in it. You know what I mean? It's like when I first learned to drive stick shift,
Mm-hmm.
like that. Or actually, I've learned to ride a motorcycle before I drove stick shift, but
Yeah.
like I remember the first time trying to figure out the clutch with the gas. It's funny. I I got all my stuff back from my dad's, and I got my motorcycle back, and that's the bike that I learned how to like shift gears on and stuff.
Right.
I remember sitting with that bike the first time learning, and I was like almost crying trying to figure out the freaking clutch. I was like 8, and I was super young, and I was like, I could barely touch my feet on the ground. Like I was on this bike
Yeah.
trying to figure out the clutch, and I was just like, it was so upsetting. Um, and looking back on that, I'm like, wow, like what a cherished memory.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. And it's like, it's so bittersweet to think about. You can only start the first once,
Mm-hmm.
and every point after that, you have some experience to inform you about the next. And that's beautiful because you're growing,
Yeah.
right? And you're learning, but it's bittersweet because you're also, you're past, you'll never be at the naive first time again, right?
Yeah.
And so it was just like this a beautiful moment in that sense. But um w- you know, it's challenging because the looking at things, I have a similar story with drop shipping to your real estate stuff where, it's like I thought I would start drop shipping, and then I was doing my own stuff, and then I purchased this business from my mentor, and I was like, oh, like I could just like make a few ads and scale this up, and I could quit my job by the summertime,
Yeah.
right? And then I could just coast out, and then I'll make a ton of money, in the wintertime, and everything will be good and dandy, right? And 140 ads later, I'm still struggling to get one that hits. And I've had, probably over a dozen ad accounts walked up and jailed at this point. I've had people steal my information. I've had to file DMCA reports, Digital Media Copyright Act reports against people who have stolen my stuff. I've had, uh, tariffs hit the product. I had, supply chain costs that hit. I've had financial burdens. I've had more credit cards than I want to have. Like there's a whole bunch of factors that
Mm.
were nowhere in my vision in February,
Right.
right? Um, and so I think it's tough because, in the beginning, in the beginning, you look at the future with a positive naivete, I'd say,
Yeah.
right? And then you start going through it and you look at it from a realistic perspective that you have to push through,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that's a lot harder mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's an indicator of you getting closer,
Mhm.
right? Because I think that from every single business person and entrepreneur I've heard, there's always a period of time of immense growth,
Mhm.
right? No one no one is working at their 9 to 5 comfortably and then suddenly falls into a multi-million dollar business,
Right.
right? And in order to get to that point of having a multi-million dollar business, there's some growth period where you have to learn how to be worth, how to build a multi-million dollar business and
Right.
be worth that, at least monetarily, right?
Right.
Um, and so, to be honest, I kind of forgot your initial question, although I resonated with your spiel.
I mean, the section is on when do we anticipate success, but just to frame
Mm,
to come
that's what
back
you
on
asked
this
me. Yeah.
to come back on this later, just to frame where we're at right now. Every time I work on the Camaro at your duplex, I'm like, dude, maybe this is the last time I have to work on the Camaro. Maybe the next time something breaks on the Camaro, Sander will have like a huge house with a two post, and it's going to be real easy to do. And I'm going to have four cars. And so it's not going to matter if the Camaro is down for 2 months or six because I have other cars and it'll be easier. Right. And I always think that. And every time I work on the Camaro, I'm like, dude, every time I work on the Camaro, I think about this. And I've been thinking this for a long time. And I'm so ready for it to happen. When is it going to happen? And like it just keeps not happening
Yeah.
despite the amount of work. Right. But like to set the frame, what is expensive to you right now? So like, let's say this something that you need routinely breaks and you have to pay for a new one. So say for example, the Miata stops working and you have to pay to fix it, right? What number feels expensive to you? Not expensive like I don't want to pay it because I don't want to pay anything I don't have to pay, right? But for
Right.
example, I keep getting fees for leaving my trash can out in my hallway. It's a $25 fee every time it happens, right? And like the first time I was annoyed, but it's not expensive. The second time doesn't feel expensive. So I know it's not $50. I know more than $50 feels expensive to me, right? But when I got hit with $1,000 bill for the tinting, I was like, okay, that's expensive,
Yeah,
right?
it makes you
So
sweat,
what
right?
feels expensive to you right now? Because this will change. And I think this is what kind of defines the levels of success that I'm looking for.
Yeah, if I if I got hit with if I got hit with a $1,500 bill, I think, that I didn't expect,
Mhm.
I would fight tooth and nail to not pay it.
Yeah.
Um, but it's different for me because I spend $1,500 on things willingly,
Right.
right? Like I spend lots of money on running ads and running tests and stuff like that, right?
That's an investment.
I've spent thousands of dollars running on tests that have completely failed.
That's an investment though,
Right,
right?
it's
That's
an
not like an
investment.
expense.
If someone came to me with a $1,500 bill of something I didn't expect, I would fight tooth and nail to not pay that bill.
Yeah.
If someone came to me with a $500 bill that I didn't expect, I would also fight for it, right?
Yeah.
But I would be less motivated than 1,500.
Yeah.
I think at the point where I don't care is if it's under $100, I leave it out of mind and I move on.
Yeah.
If it's cresting up to $200, I might start calling people to ask why.
I'm at a very similar point.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the ways that I don't know if it's Hormozi or Kiyosaki, someone that I've listened to defines wealth as you pay for dinner and don't really care what the receipt is. You don't really care what the bill is because it's just dinner. You can afford it,
Yeah.
right? But when I pay for meals now, I pay close attention to what it is, right? And if the meal for me and Grace comes out to like around $150, I'm like, what the fuck did we buy? And like I have to look at it because I'm like, shit, right?
Yeah.
So right now, anything above $150 is expensive to me, right? When you were like, "Can you pay for the Daytona thing in monthly payments?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's $180 a payment." Okay, it'd be so cool if we could push this like 2 weeks, just
Yeah.
2
Yeah.
weeks to the next paycheck,
Yeah. Of
right? Because
course.
it's over 150. So for me, now I can identify 150 is probably my threshold where things feel expensive, right?
Yeah.
But that easily could be just dinner. And wealth is being able to spend $150 on dinner, like without even thinking about it, without
Yeah.
considering how much it costs.
But it's interesting because like I can at this point I consider every purchase. It's just the unexpected
Yeah.
bills that I'm like, what? Whoa.
The ones
Right?
that,
But like
yeah.
even like for snacks. Like I was buying a little pack of Cheez-Its at the NASA like little exchange store that they have.
Yeah.
Um, and I bumped into my manager's manager, and he really likes me. And he paid for my little Cheez-It pack.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and I was like that, like I contemplated for not very long because I don't like to waste time on contemplation, but I was like, for probably about 30 seconds, I was like, do I really want these packs of Cheez-Its? And I was like, I'm gonna want it later, and then they're gonna be closed because I work a split shift and I work into the evening. So I'm like, I'm gonna get it now. I'm just gonna have it because I know I'm gonna want it later, and I'm gonna go back and forth from the vending machine and probably spend the same money on something shittier.
Right.
And so I was like, I'll just go grab it. And like, what I didn't really want to spend the $2.50,
Yeah.
right? And it's not that like I'm cheap; it's that I'm broke. And it was like I don't know what I spent. And so like my manager's manager paying for that was actually like a really awesome little gesture. I was like, sick! I got
Yeah.
my cheese pack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Goes a long way.
But it's like any expense at this point, like I consider, right? Or like when Samuel was doing the kayak thing, she was like, I want to go do a bioluminescence tour. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, how much is it going to cost? Because I was like 20 or 30 bucks. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
can we go play volleyball on the beach?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Great. And so, but then she was like, oh, like my friends have kayaks, we could do it for free. And I was like, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, so it's different.
Grace was like, "Do you want to go to Gaylord Palms?" And I was like, "We have to find out how much it costs first, because if it's over $40, no shot, right?" And ultimately, she was like, "I think it's free, but I don't know." And I was like, "Okay, cool." I didn't realize that I'm not willing to pay any money for it, but I'm also not willing to pay the time because it's like it's like it's like an hour and a half drive out there. So even if it's free, it's gonna cost like 5 hours, and that's I mean
I wasn't willing. I didn't realize I wasn't willing to pay zero money for it. Is the best quote.
yeah, that's about it. So then I was
I
like,
feel that, dude.
I was
I didn't realize that I wouldn't even take this for free. Is like such a good you frame that I pushed shit
but
in that.
it's genuine because like with Grace, I always negotiate from the perspective of trying to get her what she wants, right?
Right.
So I always start from the, well, it depends on how much it costs. And then when I figure out how much it costs, I'm like, okay, now I actually realize where I'm at, which is that I don't want to do this activity at all. And then I have to go from there, right? And so then it was like, hey, how much does it cost? It doesn't cost anything. Okay, well, it costs time. So can we find something that's free and also closer? And so ultimately we wound up doing, I can't fucking remember, something different that didn't cost as much time
Maybe
or money.
day, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It didn't cost as much time or money.
Just at the pier.
Pictures at the pier, right? From last
Yeah.
episode. We found something else, but I'm at the point right now where it's like, okay, things that cost money are like definitely consider them because I don't have a lot of that. But also things that cost time now time is money with the real estate. So
Yeah.
if I'm not spending money on things, but I'm spending larger amounts of time on things, like with open houses, right? Like next weekend, we're recording the podcast. I had asked to move the podcast to a Saturday because the only open house available is on the Sunday, right?
Mhm.
And so it's like what I realized is, oh, the day that I podcast, I cannot also do an open house because you have to do an open house during like the peak noon hours of the day. So that's like one of the two weekend days that I can only do open houses now, which is fine. That's a concession I'm willing to make. The podcast means a lot to me, but now I'm having to consider that time is really valuable, and largely time is valuable because money is super valuable. So the whole Kiyosaki thing where it's like you pay time or money, pick one, right? I don't have a lot of either, so everything feels expensive to me. But I wanted to frame how much an expensive dinner costs to us right now, because when we get to the point where it's like, yeah, I kind of don't look at the bill, I just swipe the card. That I think is the comfortable level of wealth where it's like you don't have to worry about bills anymore, and you can just focus on work, which is my happy place. If I can focus on work and not have to worry about bills,
Yeah.
life gets good quickly.
For perspective, if the main courses on the menu are over $25, I will buy an appetizer and request it as my main course meal with the other people at the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I can't reason it.
Yeah.
You know?
I've recently realized that if I include it in one of my lifestyle videos, I can write it off on my taxes, meaning it's like 20% off. But even still, I mean, you're still paying for 80% of the meal, right?
Yeah.
And it makes for good content, but it's like everything is starting to cost more because I am spending more and earning less, or spending the same and not earning more, right? But anyways, so I have written out here what my expectations are for
Yeah.
where I'm going to go. When do we anticipate success? This is my answer to that. But first, I want to preface with the reason I think these things based on my past experience, right? So, from my past experience over the last 6 or 8 months of real estate, is that lead source to lead close takes on average 3 months. Lead sourcing is extremely volatile and unpredictable for me because I don't have a consistent method of lead generation yet. And the more success you see, the more notoriety you get through exposure and referrals. So the more your business grows. And I've seen that through the agency that reached out to me about the clients from a different state that I did a bunch of showings for, right? Which is I'm doing my social media, I'm getting Google reviews, and now people will find me out of the blue and then work with me, right? Or if I'm referred through word of mouth, they'll look me up and then find I'm credible. And so I've got a quote here, which is if you're making a product people like enough to buy, you'll be profitable. If you're making a product people like enough to buy and share, then you'll grow, which supports that. And then the last lesson from my past experience is that top agents run advertisements and emphasize Google reviews over door knocking and open houses, right? That's my past experience. That leads me to very roughly anticipate a realistic course of action for the future of when I'll start to see success. And right now, I'm defining success as replacing my engineering income with real estate income, where I can quit my job and dedicate all time to real estate.
Hmm.
I think that my next sale will happen sometime in September because I have multiple clients that I've been working with for about a month, which indicates to me that my next sale will come not in August, but in September. I think that I could have 3 more closings. Oh man. Sorry, pause. Yeah. I'm gonna pick it up from that last sentence. I anticipate that I could have 3 more closings before the end of the year. And that's indicated by the fact that I had my first sale in May. If my next one comes in September, now I have my feet firmly planted on the ground and I have multiple clients right now. So I could convert that into 2 more sales before the end of the year. And then I think that in the first quarter of 2026, I could do $1 million in gross sales. So to break that down, $1 million in gross sales is $30,000 in commission. I've got a 65-35 split with my brokerage, which means of the 30,000, I keep 19,500, and then I do all my deals with Grace. So split that in half for me. That's $9,750 before tax. And for real estate, you pay tax at the end of the year, right? You don't pay as you go.
Hmm.
So $1 million in sales equates to roughly $10,000 for me. Um, Engineering pays $82,000 a year for me right now, which equates to over the year $8.4 million in gross real estate sales, or 700,000 in closings per month, right? So far between Grace and I, we have $1 million in sales. So I need to be doing what we have already done from February until August every month and a half for a whole year to replace my income.
Yeah.
And so what I'm anticipating is that I'll be able to do that month and a half target over the course of a quarter, so 4 months in Q1 of next year. And then hopefully if my one sale in September snowballs to 3 sales before the end of the year, snowballs to $1 million in Q1, hopefully that can snowball then into enough money in Q2 that I can start to consider quitting my job. But that's my realistic timeline. I obviously want to do better than that. I'm prepared for doing worse than that, but that's kind of what my estimate is here. And that's my
Yeah.
answer to the prompt.
Yeah. Um, for me, I am I am really pushing to try and get an ad that works by October.
Mhm.
And
Define ad that works.
an ad that converts me money at a higher rate than my current winning ad does.
Gotcha.
That I can then scale comfortably to about $1,000 of spend a day or beyond that.
And what
Right
does
now
it
I'm
work
about
for you?
right now my current winning ad, I really struggle to get it past 150 and spend it a day.
Okay.
And I've had it up to 200, 250 before and converting well, but it tends to fall off and I have to pull it back down.
So if you put more money into it, then it stops becoming profitable and you have to give it less to play with.
Right, because the ad is the as you put more money into it, the ad has to target a broader audience, and if the ad isn't good enough, that broader audience doesn't convert, and then your return on ad spend doesn't make sense.
Right. Facebook can only target your ad to the people that will actually buy from it for so long before it runs out of people that will actually buy from that ad. And you need to
That's part of it. But at least what I've seen is a bigger part of it is that Facebook can narrow down who will convert very well at lower spends. But
Gotcha.
as you increase spend, the quality of the avatar that it targets is a little bit broadened.
Interesting.
And so you have to get an ad that will also convert those avatars as well.
Gotcha.
It's not and it's not like it's drastically different. They still could be, grandmothers over the age of 65,
Mhm.
right? But they may be slightly colder audiences potentially, or in slightly different areas, or at slightly different income brackets. And Facebook has all that data to work from. And so
Right.
as you expand out, it expands out. And so, there's a trade-off there. So, but for a perspective of why I say about $1,000 of spend a day is that $1,000 of spend a day at my goal is a 2.0 ROAS right now.
Mhm.
So that's for every dollar I spend, I get $2 back.
Right.
Right. At that rate, I make approximately 15 to 20%. Right. And so if I'm spending $1,000 on ads, that means I'm making about $2,000 a day in sales.
Mhm.
And that's, let's say, 15%, that's $300 a day. After taxes, that would be about $200 a day,
So
which is about what I make right now.
right.
Right. And so that would be a really great benchmark.
Mhm.
And for me to get to that point. And if I can get to that point by October through the holiday season, October, November, December, those 3 months, if I could make after taxes about 4 grand to each month, I could comfortably be able to pay off the current debt that I have and have money saved up to continue testing into the coming year.
Mhm.
And so that's where I'm really trying to shoot for.
Right.
Obviously, if it scales beyond that, I'd be over the moon. That'd be great,
Yeah.
right? We
But
we
we're
all
all that
love
fit.
that,
Yeah.
right? Um, but that's what I'm really pushing for.
An additional variable that I didn't consider in my calculation is that right now I pay for all of rent and most of groceries, but in this scenario that I played out, I'm splitting all of my commission with Grace halfway, so we're making the same amount of money. So if I'm making $82,000 a year from real estate to exchange my engineering, that means Grace is also making $82,000 a year, meaning that she can pay half of rent and half of groceries. So
Right.
my actual target might be less than that. I might be able to quit with less than that if Grace can help pay for half of rent.
Yeah.
Also, in the time it takes me to build to that point, you're still making money in that time. So I might not be making exactly the same amount of money, but I might have enough in savings that I can not make any money for 5 months, and that's not realistic. I'll probably make money in that time, so it's squishy, right? It's
Mhm.
flexible. It doesn't have to be all the same.
Yeah.
But then also eventually I'm gonna have to start running ads, so then some of that money is gonna have to go not into my pocket, but then back into advertisements as well. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's I'd love to see myself get at a base level proficient at creating um a base quality ad.
Mhm.
I'd really love to see that. If I can get a base level proficiency in creating quality ads and get a quality ad that I could potentially scale up,
Right.
that would be a really awesome win for me.
Right.
Um, and I'm obviously shooting for the holiday season. I touched on that. But my main goal for this year is to continue to push the envelope, learn, grow, and develop.
Mhm.
And I think I've been relatively consistent about that throughout this year. There have definitely been times where work has been extremely stressful and it's been hard for me to grow because working 70 hours a week plus 16 hours of drive time a week if I'm working 18 hours of drive how many? It's 6 days, 12 hours of drive time if I'm working
Right.
6 days, right? An hour each way. So those 12 hours plus the 60 or 70 hours that I work at work, you know, um, there have been periods during this year where it's been challenging to really grow and analyze and scale. As I sit right now, I'm trying to take advantage of the normal hours that I have because I know that it will pick up at some point in order to learn as much as I can to grow and to build.
Right.
Um, And my motto to push me through is I'm doing enough volume to where it would be unreasonable for me to not succeed long term.
Right.
That's my goal and my vision. But I was thinking about it and I was like, I even if I can't get a winning ad, um, let's say worst case scenario, um, I can't get anything to hit. I can't get it to work. It's just stagnant and I'm accruing debt. Um, there are always ways that I can pull myself out of it,
Mhm.
right? I can like the Beamer, I'm still considering selling. I haven't worked on it because I've been focused on this, but I just got a couple things to do. I'm listing that car. I haven't driven it, right? But
Right.
um, I can sell that car will help me with debt regardless at any point in time. There are personal things I don't use at home that I can sell,
Mhm.
right? I can really hone in on saving money. I can take on extra car work. If January comes around or February comes around and I don't have the money I need in order to start, finish paying off my debts by May or June,
Mhm.
then I can start taking on extra side work and kind of lay a little bit low in the drop shipping through the super slow first quarter of the year and just
Yeah.
kind of let things simmer and ride a little bit. And so there are options, right?
You know what else we haven't considered? And I've been thinking about this more recently. It's not something that I'm going to do. It's very common in the defense industry for a level 2 engineer. So at Northrop Grumman, I have to be a level 1 engineer for 1 year before I can be promoted to level 2. And then at level 2, you have to be a level 2 for 2 years before level 3, and then 5 years from level 3 to level 4, etcetera, right? You can speed run that by getting promoted to level 2 and then 5 months later taking a job at a different company and being promoted to their level 3
Mhm.
and then back and forth. I know people personally who have gone from like 60, $70,000 a year to 150 in under 12 months
Oh,
just
wow.
by job hopping, which is totally doable for where we're at and the experience that we have right now. Because now we have 2 years under our belt in our current engineering positions, right?
Mhm.
So we have like specific projects to our name that we can talk about. We've got, experience in our field. So if we wanted to, we could put our applications in other companies and probably get like a 30-40% bump in our pay just by switching jobs.
Yeah.
Right. And so something that I'm thinking about with Reels is I'm not considering it right now because I'm happy with the team and the setup that I have currently. But I know, especially with debt, like if it starts getting to the point where it's like, oh fuck, I cannot make my payments, and I have cut out all the fat, which I know I have more fat to trim. If I have cut out all the fat and I'm like fucked, I know that I can probably get a 20-30% bump in pay just by switching companies like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I
worst
think
case scenario.
but, that's where my outline is. I s I do believe I can create a winning ad.
Mhm.
I think that I was thinking about it yesterday. I was writing a sheet, and I was like, out of just as a relevant example to present day, out of the 15 pages of hooks, messages, and call to actions, out of these 15 pages, there is a combination of words that will convert.
Mhm.
It is up to me to find that combination, but to look at those 15 pages and go, there is some combination of the words on this page, if even if they're all in the wrong order in the wrong places.
He turned.
Oh, never mind. I thought it was someone coming in.
He was
Oh, got it. Got it.
turned around when he saw we were
Ah.
recording.
Um, out of those 15 pages, there is some combination of words that will convert. And I will sit with these words and sit with this business and this product and these pages and combine them in different ways and do that until I find an ad that works. And there's a bittersweetness to that because at the same time, there's a lot of different combinations of words on those 15 pages. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's only 15 pages of words that you have to combine,
Mhm.
right? And if I can frame success as taking an immense amount of effort, but not but it's not effort that I can't see,
Mhm.
then it helps me get through the day to day because I can see the potential for the outcome, even if I'm not seeing the fruits of the labor.
Right.
And that has helped me kind of reframe this business process a little bit.
Well, that's something that I love about the podcast because I use the podcast for it's a two-pronged approach, right? Like we say in the intro. It's a documentary of where we're at in our business, and then it's also used for personal growth, right? So it's
Yeah.
dedicating myself to philosophical thought like the Elvis segment that we talked about today, which
Yeah.
which opens my eyes to what values I build my self-belief and frameworks out of, right?
Right.
I strongly value the psychological side of things, right? It keeps me emotionally stable in my relationship, in business, etc. It's very important to me, right? And equally important to me is the business side of things where I'm talking about what did I do this week to contribude to the meaningful stack of evidence, the proof who I say I am,
Yeah.
right? And I'm able to tell when I'm writing my podcast sheet or when I'm talking on the podcast, oh, my update this week is less than it was last week. Or I remember when I had this update where I talked for an hour and a half straight, and this one was 10 minutes, or
Hmm.
etc. Right? It's a way to not just hold myself accountable by giving a report on what I'm doing, but also as a self reflection of am I actually putting in maximum effort, right? Um, and I value it for both approaches there. But in terms of the do so much work that it would be unreasonable to say that you're not going to succeed, we hold up a mirror once a week with the podcast, right? And so if ever there's a point where it's like, yeah, I don't know, this week I just felt weird and just decided to not work, right? That's a fucking red flag. I would report you to a suicide hotline if you ever reported that. I actually had to talk to Grace about that this week because she has a new friend. Um, she's a very nice girl. And she works on her stuff, but she's not like real estate lady business oriented or anything like
Yeah.
and they're friends because they vibe on a personal level, right?
Hmm.
So it's like how you and I started off being friends with cars,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And engineering. We didn't know that we were both psychotic and like to look all the time, right?
Right.
But I was talking to Grace. I was like, it's interesting because I rarely have friends like that. Like usually it's like, I'm friends with someone at the bar who, like, I run into them and I chat with them and I have fun with them, but if they ask me to, like, go to Topgolf or something, I wouldn't do it, right? And then there's Sander, who I lived with and worked with 14 hours a day for, like, 6 months at a time and still meet up once a week to, like,
Yeah.
do a deep dive on, right? So it's kinda like an all or nothing thing, and I'd so much rather have one person who's, like, all and then, like, many people who are nothing. That's just how I operate. But then I told Grace, I was like, "This new friend I know that at some point she's gonna bring up the conversation of like, "Oh, like, we should hang out and our boyfriends should do stuff together, and, like, while we hang out, our boyfriends can go do stuff together." I want to be on the same page now that when that happens, you just have to be honest with her and tell her that it won't happen, right? Because and she was like, "No, I know, I get it." And I was like, "You don't." And I know that you don't because I go through this every time I meet someone new. So I'm really used to how other people perceive me the
Yeah.
first time. But you, Grace, have now been living with me for 2 years and you have acclimated to the same point I am where this is just our life. And you assume that other people live the same way and know how we operate, and that's not true. You have to explain it to them, and it's a weird conversation, right? And I said, "For example, when was the last time we went on a vacation?" And she thought about it and she said, "We went to Miami." And I was like, "When was that?" And she said, "June of 2023." I was like, "Mhm." Or maybe it was 2024. It was over a year ago. And I was like, "Right." And I was like, "When was the last time we took a day to do no work and just go shopping and hang out and do no we'd never opened the laptops. When was the last time we took a day like that?" And she was like, "Fucking maybe never." And I was like, "Right." And I was like, "When was the last time we got home from work, kicked our shoes off, made dinner, snuggled, watched a TV show, and went to bed early?" And she was like, "We've never done that once." And I was like, "Yeah." Most people can pick at least one, if not multiple nights per week where they kick their shoes off and have a day. Usually every 2 to 3 weeks, they'll have a shopping day where they just go out and relax. And most people go on at least one vacation per quarter, even if it's a small vacation to a neighboring city. People do not live the way that we did. She started laughing because she had started to realize that I have gotten her into the occult of like psychosis where all we do is work outside of work and then we work.
Yeah.
And she laughed because she was like, I guess I hadn't really realized that we live a different lifestyle than other people. And I was like, yeah. And I'm totally on board with you having this new friend. And I'm excited for you to have someone that's moderately sane, unlike myself. And I want you to spend time with her and have fun. But when she tries to get me to do regular normal people shit, you gotta tell her no. You just have to be honest, right? And she laughed, but it's yeah, it's a
Yeah.
similar thing as to what you were saying.
It's really interesting that you bring that up because I was thinking about this a little bit with Sammy too, in that when we were first dating, she was like the I want multiple dates a week and, like go out and hang out with friends and stuff like this. And it was very challenging for me to balance all that. Um, and so it's evolved to a point where now not only am I able to work every day of the week and concentrate on my effort, and she understands that and she sees that and she supports and helps me on the other places where I can't dedicate time or effort, like cleaning or cooking or, keeping up with, the life functions, right? Um, but not only that, I think that like the work that I'm doing has also rubbed off to an extent because like I see her working on her own stuff a lot more too.
Yeah.
And it's interesting kind of how like our lives have meshed in that way. Um it's cool to see, but it is I don't get out in the outside world like much, right? Like I'm pretty much like working, and then when I do go to like Pauhana, which is like one of probably two places that I go, right? I go to work, I go home, and then I go to Pauhana.
Yeah.
I try to avoid the grocery store as much as possible because I hate doing it.
Me too.
And when I need to, I go to like the post office,
Yeah.
right? But like outside of that, unless I get um unless I do a date thing with Sammy, I don't really go anywhere else.
Right.
Um, and so it's funny for me to like get out to like Pauhana like on Saturday. Like I was like, oh man, like people, you know what I mean? Like I just kind of walking around and hanging out. And I felt like one of the annoying people that go and talk to everyone because that was me on Saturday. I was just going and talking to everyone. Um, but it was funny because like after an hour and a half, or so, I was like, okay, like I gotta go back home and work. And there's always the encouragement to like stay and hang out and whatever, but it's like, man, like I'm getting out and about and like seeing other people's lives, and it's a reflection of like how differently I'm living mine by and
Yeah.
large, right? Um, and so it's interesting that you bring it up because I've had a similar experience where it's like now Sammy brings up like something with friends, and she's she used to bring up every single thing with friends,
Mhm.
and I'd have to turn her down 95% of the time. So now she only really brings up like 5% of the things, and
That's good.
then I can like deeply consider that 5% and
Right.
like really try to assess it and plan for it, which makes
Right.
my life easier, right? Because I'm not constantly rejecting her ideas, and I'm also able to put more thought and effort into the ideas she does bring to the table. So it's kind of a win-win. It's like quality over quantity,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so it's worked out well in that sense. But it's like when I'm working, like I was in my flow, trying to write scripts, and it's for me, it's Eugene Schwartz talks about this a little bit, but he talks about how like you kind of it's kind of metaphorical a little bit, but he's like you have to be able to disconnect yourself from the script in a way as you're writing in order to let your subconscious mind flow through what the script is going to convey, so that you can see through it into what the is being shown about the product. It's kind of like one of the concepts he talks about. And so I'm like kind of like in this zone where I'm trying to like zenning through this script, right? And Sammy walked in, and she started to ask me like a question, and I was just completely in my zone, in my bubble. And she kind of saw me, and she was like stepped out a little bit, and then she like closed the door softly behind her. And then like 5 minutes later, I got up and I'm like, "What's up?" Right? And so it's like because it's like I'm in my zone, I'm in my bubble. Like this is it's funny because there's only three rooms in the duplex, really.
Yeah.
There's the living room slash kitchen. There's a garage, so I guess four, right? There's a garage, the living room slash kitchen, the bedroom, and the study room.
Right.
And the living room slash kitchen slash bedroom
Mhm.
is like all her space. And then we don't refer to the study room as a study room anymore. We refer to it as my room,
Yeah.
right? It's just I'm in my room,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And like that is my room because she has stuff in there. Like she has her closet, and she's like put all these nice trinkets up on the walls and stuff like that. Where she's made it pretty. But like that's my room, that's my space, right?
Right.
And so it's like I go there to do concentrated work, and that's all I do ever there.
Right.
And then like in the bed, like I don't even sleep on the bed. I sleep on the floor so that I can wake up easier and
Mhm.
then get more work done, right? And so it's like, but it's just funny how like I think that there's been a very noticeable shift in how the dynamics of our lives, and that shift has come gradually over time. But then when I step outside of that, and I see like how a lot of my coworkers or, other friends and people I interact with otherwise, it's so different. And it's different in a beautiful way,
Right.
right? And it's cool, but it's so interesting to see the differentiation there,
Right.
right?
Well, and going back to the doing insane amounts of volume to where it's unreasonable that you wouldn't succeed, how many people, whether you know them personally or have read about them online or seen them on TikTok, how many people live these kinds of lives and dedicate this much amount of time to work, have been doing it for 40 years and don't have anything to show for it? I don't know anyone. I don't know anyone who does this level of work personally, period, other than us. But also, I don't know anybody online who's been doing this and hasn't seen any level of success from it at all over 1 year, let alone 40, right? Which
I,
tells me that if
yeah,
I just do it long enough and I'm working on the right things, assuming I'm working on the right things, right? Like Hormozi says, if you're doing a lot of work and not saying anything, you're working on the wrong stuff. Wholeheartedly believe I'm working on the wrong stuff right now, right? I need to be running Facebook ads, and that's the direction that I'm pointed. I just have to lay the foundation first, right? But
mm,
like, I think it's unreasonable to think that there are people who work the same amount as us and don't see any results from it, right? And if there
yeah.
are people out there, they don't have a podcast and post about it. So if we're the first to do this amount of work for 40 years and see nothing from it, we're going to tell you exactly how to achieve nothing at all over 40 years live on air in this podcast.
Yeah, I think it would be very unreasonable to assume that we can't get to the point of financial freedom at some point within the next, I would say, 3 to 8 years,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? Like true financial freedom where we don't look at buying dinner anymore,
Yeah.
right? Like I think 3 to 8 years is a very reasonable frame.
Yeah.
Because I haven't I've listened to a lot of successful entrepreneurs, and not one of them I've heard it took them over like 6 years to get to a point where they were semi-stable,
Right.
right? Like the most I've maybe seen is 6 or 8 years.
Right.
And there's some argument out there that like, oh well, there's the person that works for 20 and they never saw anything, right? And I'm like, well, then there should be people out there who work for 20 and do see it after 20, and then they talk about seeing it after 20, right? But I think that most people who work really, really hard to achieve their goals will achieve them in 3 to 8 years,
Yeah.
or at least a version of their goals.
Yeah.
And so I think that if we continue to push, it would be unreasonable that we don't succeed.
Yeah, I think I see it the same way. And so when considering the topic of segment 3 of like when do we think we're going to hit it? For me it's less of when it actually happens and more of it's going to happen, period. I don't know when. I can't say when. I don't have enough information to predict when, right? If I did, then there wouldn't be much use in asking the question because you know when it would happen, right? It's like if you're going to get an inheritance when your grandfather dies and he just died, you know that you're getting your inheritance in the next year or two, right? Because it's coming your way. But if your grandfather's not dead yet, you don't know when you're going to get your inheritance, right? So it's like, why think
Yeah.
about it? Just
Well,
keep doing what you're doing.
it goes back to the title of the podcast. Successful entrepreneurs can work harder for longer and delay gratification.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm in the same boat. It's like I don't know exactly when it will happen, but I know that I am not giving myself a choice, succeed or not succeed. I will succeed because I will continue to produce a volume of content in a field that I see as reasonable for me to find success in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the only thing that would stand in our way is if we ever reach the point where it's like, I have done everything that I can think of for an extended period of time and none of it has worked and I don't know what to do. I think that that scenario or quitting, which isn't going to happen, are the only two that would stop that from happening. And with as many people as have seen success in our respective fields, I think it's unreasonable to say that we can do everything for extended periods of time and not see success.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree.
All right. That's what I
Those are all
got.
my points.
Me too. Okay. So our Dylan quote comes from, I don't know where it was buried in my quotes list, but when I was reading through this, it came to mind. So I don't know where it comes from. If 1,000 people succeed, I am one of them. If 100 people succeed, I am one of them. If 10 people succeed, I am one of them. If one person succeeds, it's me. If nobody succeeds, I died trying.
Heck yeah.
That's all I got.
Thank you for tuning in. Have a great week, and we will see you next time.